Okay, that's too funny. I'm not ready though. How can I do that?
Where's Andy?
Because we got still a lot to do. Okay. Okay, I will now call back to order the Pasco County Board of County Commission meeting of October 25th, 2022. Please silence all electronic devices and mute your microphones. We will proceed with public hearings, starting with ordinances. P81.
Item P81 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on February 2nd, 2022.
Madam Chair, this is Nectarios Pitos, Planning and Development Department. Item P81 is an ordinance amending the Pasco County Comprehensive Plan, providing for a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment to the future land use map, map 2-15 and sheet 04, changing from IL industrial light Res 6 residential 6 dwelling units per gross acre and Res 3 residential 3 dwelling units per gross acre to PD plan development on approximately 331.34 acres of real property located at the southwest corner of Denton Avenue and Mattis Road, and a text amendment creating sub-area policy flu 7.1.61 Denton Avenue, and a map amendment to the future land use map 2-9 adding sub-area map 2-961 Denton Avenue, providing for additional text amendments as necessary for internal consistency, providing for repeal or severability and effective date, and this is a continuance to a date uncertain.
Move to continue date uncertain?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Sorry, I lost my place already. P82.
Item P82 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on July 6, 2022 and August 24, 2022.
Item P82 is an ordinance by the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners amending the Pasco County Land Development Code Section 602, J. Ben Harrell, Villages of Pasadena Hills Stewardship District, revisions to text, table, and exhibits, text revisions to Section 602.08M, impact fees, mobility fees, and development fee surcharges, and Section 602.10, VOPH transportation analysis, table revisions to Exhibit 602-C, transportation development fee schedules, revisions to Exhibit 602-D, property owner credits, map and table amendments to Exhibit 602E, master roadway plan, add new cross-section 60AA, and revised illustration of cross-section 70AA to include family bike paths, and amending other sections as necessary for internal consistency, providing for applicability, repeal or severability, inclusion into land development code, and an effective date.
You know, I just want to say something. Am I on? Every time you call it the Ben Harrell Villages, I get a little thing in my heart for Ben Harrell. So some of you may not know who Ben Harrell was, former county attorney, great guy. So I'm glad that this is named after him. Board members, do you have any questions on this action?
Move
Okay.
approval.
All right.
Got it?
Well, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to P82?
I don't have anyone signed up, and no one is on WebEx for this item.
Okay. I heard a
approval.
motion.
Second.
and a second. So I think this is a roll call vote. I got it right.
District 1, Commissioner Oakley.
Aye.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Fitzpatrick. Aye. District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 3, Chairman Starkey.
Aye. All right, P83.
Item P83 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on July 6, 2022 and August 24, 2022.
Item P83 is an ordinance amending the Pasco County Comprehensive Plan for a comprehensive plan amendment to the future land use element Goal Flu 6, J. Ben Harrell Villages of Pasadena Hills, to make roadway changes in figures PH2, PH4, PH4A, PH8, PH12, and PH13, amend Transportation Map 7-36, Highway Vision Plan and Functional Class Map, and providing for additional text amendments as necessary for internal consistency, providing for a repeal or severability and an effective date.
Board members, any questions? Okay. This is a public hearing. Does anyone want to speak to P83?
I have no one signed up and no one on WebEx for this
Move
item.
approval.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Roll call vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I wrote roll call, and then I highlighted it in pink, just right now. Still didn't work. Okay.
District 1, Commissioner Oakley.
Aye.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Fitzpatrick. District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 3, Chairman Starkey.
Aye. And P84.
Item P84 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on August 7th, 2022.
Item P84 is an ordinance amending the Pasco County Comprehensive Plan, providing for a text amendment to the Central Pasco Employment Village Sub-Area Policies, Policy Flu 7.1.12, providing for repealer severability and an effective date.
Okay, same process. Any questions on this?
Just a quick statement. I just want to, again, thank the team and thank the landowners and land use attorneys and fellow commissioners for obviously supporting this and us getting this over the hill, per se, since it's in the, kind of in the Dade City / Lena Lakes, that entire area. But very important to be able to allow these landowners and more landowners now to, have that those industrial sites and create more job opportunities for our citizens here in Pasco County. So thanks to everybody that worked on this. It's definitely very beneficial. Thank you.
Yeah, this is nice that we could plan such a large area. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't we do something with the roads where we put some family trails? Is that this one, or is that it?
No, this
No,
is,
was that in Connected City?
That was in the VOPH item.
Yeah.
for the
So
family trails.
I'm grateful for that. I think that'll be good for the citizens. Okay, anyone wanting to speak to this?
There's no one signed up and no one on WebEx for this item.
Roll
move
call?
approval.
Oh, yeah. Motion second, roll call.
District 1, Commissioner Oakley.
Aye.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 3, Chairman Starkey.
Aye.
Chairman, you had R77, which was tied to 82 and 83, if you want to take that out.
Yeah, let's go ahead and pull that forward. Do you do that one, Terry? R77?
I can read it.
It's a resolution by the Board of County Commissioners acting as the Board of Supervisors for the J. Ben Harrell Villages of Pasadena Hills Stewardship District, adopting the Villages of Pasadena 2022 financial plan, which will be applicable within the J. Ben Harrell Villages of Pasadena Hills Stewardship District.
So this is a regular item, so there's no public.
Yeah.
Right.
So, board members, do you have any questions?
Move approval.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you for moving that one along.
No, it's a regular.
So
item.
P85, and are we now at,
If you want me to do the procedures, we can do that now. There are two rezoning agendas, regular and consent. Staff will present each application to the Board of County Commissioners. If staff or Planning Commission has recommended approval and there is no opposition, the application will be considered by the Board of County Commissioners without further presentation. If the staff or Planning Commission has recommended denial, or if there is opposition to the application, the applicant will be
Time's up.
given 5 minutes for presentation. The opposition will be given 3 minutes for each individual, or 5 minutes for a group representative, and the applicant will be given 3 minutes for rebuttal. Any individual disagreeing with staff or planning commission recommendation, or anyone wishing to object to any condition of the rezoning, may at this time request the petition be pulled from the consent agenda, in which case that application will be heard under the regular agenda later on during the meeting. Otherwise, all rezoning applications on the consent agenda will be approved by a single motion and vote. If you wish to speak to any petition, please give your name and address and whether or not you've been sworn for the record. These are quasi-judicial public hearings. The law in Florida is mere public support or opposition of an application is insufficient for this board to take action. Please limit your comments to those criteria found within the board's land development code. Madam Clerk, do you wish to swear them in?
I would. If you are here to speak on any of the remaining items, please stand if you're able to, and raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
okay, let's go with the first one, P85.
Item P85 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on October 9th, 2022.
Item PA85 is a roadway transfer agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation, State Road 54A/Black Lake Road from State Road 54 Western connection to State Road 54A/Black Lake Road cul-de-sac and State Road 54 Eastern connection.
Yeah, and we kind of found this out while we were working with a developer in that area, so it's kind of just a little oversight. Is there anyone here to speak against this item? Do we have anyone signed up to speak against it?
No one is signed up, and I have no one on WebEx.
We'll leave it on consent. 86.
Item P86 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on October 9th, 2022.
Yeah, that's fine.
Good afternoon, Margaret Smith, County Engineer. Both P85 and P86 are transfer agreements, the roadway, State Road 52 and Black Lake and on State Road 54. And we have some of our FDOT team here who would like to do a little PowerPoint to just go over those, particularly the State Road 52 transfer.
Okay? Did they send that PowerPoint to our staff? Okay, can you load that, please?
Wait.
So I've been advised to ask if you would like the presentation.
Yeah, this is a consent item, Madam Chair.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
good.
we don't have
You're
to.
good? You feel comfortable?
good.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Heck, yeah.
Good report. Good question.
Okay, if there's no one signed, is there anyone signed up to speak against the transfer of,
Yeah, I'm
State
not
Road
sure that we got to, this is
Yeah.
this is 86, which is the transfer of State Road 52 from east of Uradco Place to US 98, US
anyone
301.
online to speak against it?
I have no one signed up in person or online for this item.
We'll keep it on consent. 87.
Item P87 was published in Tampa Bay Times on September 7th, 2022.
Before you say something, Terry, and before DOT leaves, I did have a conversation with Secretary Gwynn about County Line Road, because I know there's some discussion about County Line Road maybe becoming part of the state system. And he told me in order for them to take over County Line Road, we have to take something else. Like it's a trade, so we need to have that thought if that's what we want to do, okay? All right, go ahead.
Item P87 is a conditional use request in the name of Malicos Holdings, Inc. / Malicos Holdings duplexes. It's an approval of a vacation rental, short-term rental in a R4 high-density residential district in northwest Pasco County, north side of Clark Street, east of the intersection of Clark Street and Aroe Avenue, containing approximately 0.21 acre, and this comes as a recommendation of approval.
You
with
mean we're having a
conditions.
legal one? I shouldn't say that. Okay, any questions on this one? Okay, is there anyone here to speak against P87?
I have no one signed up for P87 and no one on WebEx.
Then we will leave it on consent. P88.
Item
Item P8
P88 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on September 7th, 2022.
Item P88 is a zoning amendment in the name of Smith 80 MPUD Master Plan Unit Development by Smith Cattle and Grove Incorporated. It's a rezoning request from an AC agricultural zoning district to an MPUD Master Plan Unit Development District to allow for the development of a maximum of 160 residential dwelling units on approximately 80 acres. And this comes with a recommendation of approval with conditions.
Board members, any questions? Okay, is there anyone here in the public that wishes to speak against this item?
I have no one signed up for this item and no one on WebEx for this item.
Okay. Seeing no one, we'll leave it on consent. And then we'll move on to P89.
Item P89 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on September 7th, 2022.
Before I read this into the record, I have received ex partes from all the commissioners which have been submitted to the clerk's office. And there was also an updated condition of approval that was added to the MPUD, so I'll read that as soon as I read this title off. So P89 is a zoning amendment in the name of Longleaf Grove MPUD Master Plan Unit Development by Campbell South Commercial LLC. It's a change in zoning from a C2 General Commercial District to a MPUD Master Plan Unit Development District to allow for a maximum of 95,000 square feet of commercial retail, 15,000 square feet of office, and 350 multifamily apartments, and approximately 36,800 36.861 acres, not 36,000, 36.861 acres in central Pasco County, north of State Road 52, east of US 41. And this comes with a recommendation of approval with conditions. The added condition would be condition number 31, and that will read, subsequent to this MPUD approval, but prior to the first preliminary development plan / preliminary site plan approval for the project, developer and Pasco County shall enter into a development agreement or a substantial MPUD amendment, which shall at a minimum, 1, provide for the upsizing of the required 5-foot sidewalk along the project's US 41 frontage within the right-of-way to be conveyed by developer pursuant to condition number 23 to a minimum 8-foot multi-use path, and 2, provide for mobility fee credits against the bike pedestrian portion of the mobility fee.
Okay, board members, do you have any questions about the Longleaf development? All right, is there anyone here that wishes to speak to that?
I have no one signed up for this item and no one on WebEx for this item.
All right, we will leave it on consent.
Yeah.
And then we have P90.
Item P90 was published in Tampa Bay Times on September 7th, 2022.
Item P90 is the Remington MPUD Master Plan Unit Development by Sandhill Flats LLC. It's a rezoning request from an AC Agricultural Zoning District to an MPUD Master Plan Unit Development District to allow the development of a maximum of 127 single-family detached residential units on approximately 44.2 acres. And this comes with a recommendation of approval with conditions.
Okay, board members, any questions on this one?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner, they're all in District 1.
Yeah.
This is my meeting. We're okay.
East side going to the west side.
Okay, is there anyone here to speak against this item?
So I have no one signed up for P90 and no one on WebEx for P90.
All right, so we'll leave it on consent. And then P91.
Item P91 was published in Tampa Bay Times on September 7th, 2022.
Item P91 is a zoning amendment to the name of Jordan and Jordan MPUD Master Plan Unit Development Substantial Modification by Jordan and Jordan Incorporated. It's a substantial modification to the MPUD Master Plan Unit Development District to extend the expiration date of a previously approved MPUD, and this comes with a recommendation of approval with
Okay.
the established conditions.
All right, any questions? Is there anyone here to speak against this?
I have no one signed up for this item and no one on WebEx.
Okay, I think that is the end of our consent agenda, so
Move approval.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
if you'll notice, there was not much comment on these items coming from the east side because we all work together over there.
Yeah, well, I'm looking to make sure they're all connected to each other, and hopefully they are. I hope you're paying attention over there. Because you don't want to have to get in your
I've
car
already
and
read these
drive
before I
10
got
miles to
here.
get to your neighbor.
Oh, Lord.
That's all I can say.
I heard there's no house and no sidewalks.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
It looks like a bunch of well, there are some, there.
teasing with
I'm just,
you.
well, I'm not. I'm just saying, you should keep an eye on your neighborhoods there.
They are provided.
No. Mm. Okay, we are on P92.
Item P92 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on September 21st, 2022 and September 28th, 2022.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Eric Breitenbach, Assistant County Administrator for Internal Services. Item P92 is a petition to vacate a portion of platted canal right-of-way. The petitioner seeks to obtain this vacation in order to repair the eroding seawall due to safety concerns. There were no objections, and we recommend approval.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
So I went out to the site to take a look at it and actually met the owner. I support what we're doing here, but I'd like to have us take an extra step as well. He's looking at putting a seawall all the way down, kind of straightening it out, making it look better. He's going to probably do the front of the property as well, so it's a major investment. At the portion of where he's not going to own is where we have our property, where the roadway comes off, and we have a drainage part right there. Right now, we just have a simple block set up there that's very fragile. And I think when he does his seawall, we should incorporate in doing an improvement at the same time and fixing our seawall at the same time. That'll
Okay.
secure the drainage, because right now you get a little bit of erosion around the pipe as well, so it'd be a good time to, when he gets ready to go do his project, that we incorporate and get the extra work done to have ours in. By not having any mobilization or anything else, it should be very inexpensive to get it done, and it will really improve the neighborhood.
Got it, sir. I'll coordinate with my colleague Branford to work those details.
Okay.
Sir.
Nick?
Okay, is there anyone in the public here to question or speak about P92?
I have no one signed up for the item and no one on WebEx.
Move approval?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
P93.
Item P93 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on September 11th, 2022, and by affidavit of certified mailings and site postings.
Did you all want a presentation for this Renner DA?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good thing I prepared one. All right, we have the Renner MPD DA, PDD 230565. Here's a location map. It is just south of and abutting Wisteria Loop. The purpose of this DA is to provide for the design, right-of-way dedication, and construction of Bexley Road, Wisteria Loop realignment improvements, and to allow the developer to receive reimbursements in the form of mobility fee credits for 100% of the actual reasonable eligible amount spent by the developer for the Bexley Road, Wisteria Loop realignment improvements. The Renner MPUD was approved by the board on January 25th, 2022. The primary access will be on Bexley Road, Wisteria Loop. When the Renner MPUD went to the board was very clear that the new alignment of Bexley Road, Wisteria Loop must be established through this Renner DA. Therefore, per the BCC directive, the DA establishes the new alignment of Bexley Road, Wisteria Loop, including the specific improvements to tie into the existing roadway. And here is one of the exhibits submitted with the DA. Shows the different roadway segments. Another exhibit shows the right-of-way cross-section. The LPA heard the item at the September 22nd, 2022 PC hearing and voted to recommend approval to the board. And the proposed DA is consistent with the applicable portions of the comprehensive plan and the applicable conditions of the MPUD. With that, the PDD and the LPA recommend approval.
Okay, well, I know that we're going to have questions about the sidewalk, but we do have, if anyone doesn't have any other questions, I think we should hear from the public first and then bring it back to us. I did go out and walk this with the engineers, the landowners, and others in that area, and developers, engineers, so. Okay.
Normally you would hear from the applicant and then public.
Oh, yeah, the applicant is welcome to speak. Then we'll hear from the public.
Shelley Johnson, 6400 Madison Street, and I have been sworn. Yeah, we were approved in January on this MPUD. We've spent the last year, since September, working through this DA agreement pursuant to the approval and pursuant to the direction of the board. I submitted, I think, in September, so it's almost a little bit over a year to date that we submitted. We've worked with the county attorney's office. I think we're in agreement on terms with the actual DA agreement. And then we've also worked with the county coordinating with the design that's attached to this as exhibits A, B, C, and D, as well as the applicants, the residents in the area, Mr. Couch and Mr. Gadd. I think as Chairman, as you mentioned, we actually met out at the site, my client did and the engineers did, with Mr. Couch and Mr. Gadd to discuss their concerns with regards to design. We actually went back and did a redesign after that meeting, which is Exhibit D to the agreement. And so here we are. We went to the Planning Commission in September, as Tammy stated, and at that Planning Commission, for the first time, to my knowledge, and I think to my client's knowledge, we were asked to look at a different design after a year of this, and put in place of a bike path, a sidewalk. So obviously on the spot, we couldn't agree to that. We told the Planning Commission we would go back and look at it, which KB Homes and their engineers have done. I know staff was privy to a lot of the emails going back and forth in terms of some of the engineering semantics that we're going to go into it. Ultimately, it can be done. I think we all agree with that. Can it be done today? No, and that's the problem. We're going to need time to do the engineering. We're going to need time to look at what's going on. There's right-of-way that's going to need to be acquired because I don't know if anybody realizes it, but what the request is not just to do a sidewalk replacement of the bike path of the existing design, but it's asking us to add a whole nother segment to the sidewalk design, which is the portion from Arden Loop out to US 41. So right now where we're at, and of course there's going to be issues with that with right-of-way, there's going to be issues with cost. I mean, my understanding is that there's some entertainment that the county will go ahead and agree to pay for this because my client cannot agree to traffic impact fee credits at this point. And we've discussed that with the county. I mean, it's just not something that they can do because they don't have anywhere to utilize that stuff right now. You know, there's no, with the market and the housing industry, there's nowhere for them to entertain even using it. So, and they're going to have a lot of impact fee credits left over right now just from this particular, the original improvement that we agreed to and discussed during the MPD process. So I have had conversations with David. I've had conversations, obviously, with my client. We can agree to come back in 6 months, 12 months, whatever the period is that everyone's comfortable with, and do an amendment to the existing DA that would be approved today, and to address some of the redesign concerns that Mr. Couch had raised in regards to doing a sidewalk in place of a bike path.
Well, that's the
adding
first
a
I'm
new
hearing of that. So I do want you to go more in depth about why we would be taking out a bike. Oh, you're talking about on the road?
Yeah, on the road.
Okay, yeah.
Back lane
Yeah,
of the
which
road.
I don't think we're going to do.
Okay.
But I definitely want the multi-use path to stay. So I need to understand today what's going on so I can vote on it. And I have talked with Carbala and with some of our staff, and I don't think it should all be on the developer, but I want to have a plan, and I need to know what the plan is today, that we're going to connect all that up.
Okay.
So-
Well, I mean, we're here, you can tell, we're here just to we're trying to do the best we can. I mean, we've been put in a really bad position, again, because we had this all worked out. We were on consent agenda when we went to Planning Commission. So we thought everyone was in agreement, so we were completely caught off guard by this. And for us, this DA, we need to get it approved today. I mean, this is D-Day for this DA. I mean, we have to get this done. We've been a year in process just on this, and we were over a year in process on the MPD, so we're willing to continue to look at it and work at whatever, you know, y'all want us to look at and work at and try to address concerns, but our main goal right now today is to get our development agreement approved, but we're here to answer any questions.
Yeah, so I see Brad coming up, and some of the challenge here is, I think we have a rural road section connecting into an urban road section, and some other challenges. So someone tell us how that's going to work out.
Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of complicated engineering that goes along
Yeah.
with this. Like they said, it is able to be done. There's an engineering solution for everything. Some of that does come at a cost, however. But I just wanted to clarify one thing, is that the information on the sidewalks and the exchange of taking the bike lanes out for the sidewalks was something that was recommended by one of the citizens. The county does not agree to removing the bike lanes at this time, so we'll move forward with that, trying to add the sidewalks in with whatever needs to happen to make that occur.
Well, I want to be sure we're talking about, because there's a multi-use path coming down one of these sides. So I want to make sure we're talking about the multi-use path. I don't care so much about the sidewalk, but I care about the multi-use path. So just want to, and I get that maybe there may be an area where we
Yeah,
get
there's definitely a
constrained,
transition area
where we
there's
have to squeeze in for a little bit.
Right.
But I can't really tell what's going on with that, with what I have in front of me. So someone, and I think others have questions too. And we do have the public that will be saying something too, so, hey.
Jay Hunting, 3030 Starkey Boulevard, Newport Richey. I'm with Florida Land Design and Permitting. Just to clarify.
And sir, you've been
if I-
sworn. You've been sworn, right?
Yes.
It just needs to be on the record.
Sorry, yes,
Thank you.
I've been sworn. Just to clarify, as I understand the request or the proposal from Mr. Couch, it is that the typical cross-section of Division Road be revised to eliminate bike lane in order to provide sidewalk.
Sidewalk or path? I just want the nomenclature to be clear.
The typical cross-section has a 5-foot sidewalk on one side and a 12-foot multi-use path on the other side. As you and I met in the field and we
Yeah.
discussed this. And I think the proposal that we just got yesterday was to eliminate bike lane and substitute sidewalk for the multi-use path. Okay, we've talked to staff about this. We know staff does not support that idea. There's a number of, as Shelley said, there's a number of obstacles to providing the additional sidewalks along the area of Bexley and Wisteria that's not being affected by the Vision Road. And that, again, has to do with right-of-way, potential wetland impacts, engineering and drainage issues, which we have not worked out yet. So I hope that clarifies at least somewhat what, and I believe that the proposal for the additional sidewalks was something that was suggested by Mr. Couch. So if I'm misrepresenting what his proposal is, I'm sure he's here to speak on it. He can correct me, and then we can.
I wish I had some more diagrams to understand, and this is kind of complex, but, and Jeremy may have some, I see, but
Okay.
I don't think there was ever a thought that we shouldn't have, the multi-use trail continue or a sidewalk continue. So whether it's your responsibility or not, I'm sure all of it isn't. And I understand that and I want to it's got to get all the way to 41. And that comes through some property owned by the county. We have that site where we have the commercial kitchen, and we feed some of our elderly folks on Wisteria Loop. And then there's a commercial piece on the corner, and I just need to feel comfortable with my staff that we are committing that it's going to get to 41. So, both of them. Well, I don't care so much about sidewalk as I do the multi-use. That's all do you have any maps or anything, Brad, or does anyone, to show where we're talking about? So my fellow commissioners can see what's going on?
Yeah, we received this yesterday as well, from the citizen.
I guess maybe it's, no,
Madam
it
Chair?
doesn't show it there.
Can
Yeah.
they show the aerial map?
You knew you'd know.
And
There you go.
yeah, because I don't even see it.
Again, the transition,
See, it ends
look,
before it goes further.
see. Oh, okay. See if that works. Okay, so the transition from the proposed Vision Road to down to Wisteria is in that location, and we're doing substandard road improvements on Bexley, Wisteria
Wisteria?
itself. Okay, and then I think where we're talking about is the transition between,
The pink and the green?
Here's his map, too. It shows
Yes.
the two areas.
this is the map that,
And board members, the green, they let up, it was approved with a sidewalk, even though we had a plan for a multi-use trail to be on that. So it's kind of frustrating. It's kind of, that was a mistake, I think.
and I think where
But-
Mr. Couch is asking for sidewalk on existing Wisteria, and this is not working right
On the
away.
south side? See, my map stops before it gets to that piece, so,
So, Madam Chair?
I'm sorry, it's between where our
We-
Vision Road
He doesn't know what he's doing.
stops and where the sidewalk begins at the Alden subdivision.
Alden,
So
yeah.
the area in pink is where Mr. Couch is suggesting that we do sidewalk. And then, but from the north side,
Wait, and what, a sidewalk on which side of the street?
on the north side of the street,
So it'll transition from a 12-foot wide trail to a sidewalk right there?
I believe so.
Why, when we own, we're getting all that property to the north or to the east? Why would we go from 12-foot to 5 there?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that, because
Yeah, we're,
Because all that land was donated to us from the Clark MPUD, that big crescent?
So this was a request by one of the citizens. This is not something that the county was in agreement with, but we brought it here so it could be discussed.
So, Madam Chairman,
Yeah?
why don't we hear
if
from
I have
public
I have a
comment?
suggestion,
Yeah.
is if the team is done with their presentation as the applicant, let's hear from Mr. Couch during public comment
Okay,
and
then
whoever
come back
else
to
might
us.
be out there, and we can
That
get
works
to the
for me.
bottom of this.
That's fine. Okay, so we will now take public comment. I think we have at least one person who has signed up.
Yes, Mr. Couch is the only one that I have signed up.
And I did speak to Mr. Gadd about this last night. He couldn't be here today, so.
Jeremy Couch, 6624 Wisteria Loop. Can I have a little bit of extra time? Because
Yeah,
I need to
you can have Gadd's
explain.
time.
So, I don't want to be here today, but this is my neighborhood.
Yep.
And I live out here, and I just don't want to get this all foobarred up.
Right.
The way
It's-
that it looks in the DA. I mean, God bless them, but, so if you can pull up this map right here, really, you have 4 segments. One of them isn't colored. So there's a segment of road from 41 to the edge of Arden Preserve, which was built with Arden Preserve. It was done substandard road improvement. So they made the pavement nice. They put a sidewalk in front of Arden Preserve. Looks good. The second segment is the pink segment in front of my house, where essentially the proposal is just to widen the pavement. No trail, no sidewalk, nothing. That's in the section. If somebody turns the Elmo on, I can show you what that looks like.
Do we have an Elmo?
Yes, you
Okay.
do.
And so it's just a rural section, just 11-foot lanes. Then you're gonna get into, this is the Vision Road that the county's buying, is just the yellow segment. So for just the yellow segment, we're gonna have the typical section, and bless the staff, they're doing what they're supposed to. They do what you tell them. But they're just gonna have the path and the sidewalk in just the yellow segment,
Not in the blue?
not in the blue. So then you're gonna have another gap. You see where that little blue that goes like this is, the little upside down U? We're just gonna have regular pavement widening there. We're not gonna have a sidewalk, we're not gonna have a trail. Then when you get in front of the actual Renner property, you're gonna have a sidewalk. So ultimately, my heartburn is when you're done,
Yeah, that's not
this is what you're gonna have. So the corner is being built, it's site plan 22-003, it's a self-storage. They're gonna build the sidewalk on the hard corner. They're not gonna build the sidewalk in front of the elderly center. Arden Preserve is built. Then you have a gap in front of my place, which there will not be anything. Then you're gonna have this little loop-de-loop where you're gonna have something. Then again, you're gonna have nothing, and then you're gonna have something. This is what it looks like. This is what we're proposing. And it puts me in a bad situation to be here.
No,
'cause
it's-
this is my client.
It's,
And they're not my client anymore, obviously. I mean,
no,
Heard
listen,
that, Bridge.
I'm embarrassed. If that's what's in front of us,
That's what's in front of you.
I am like embarrassed. And I will tell you that I have asked for us to have a trails person who is over all the trails, over the MPO trails, over the parks trails, and over these kind of trails. And this is why we need that kind of person, because someone's got to look at the whole picture. And I am astounded that this is coming to us like this. I don't,
And so the second part
it's
of this.
worse than I thought.
It's bad. And so the second part of the story is what they were saying. What I suggest is, I understand there's only so much money in their mobility fees.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get in the way of their project and their progress, and I would like to see the road fixed, because the road is a mess. And for the most part, The widening that they're doing and the overlay that they're gonna do is gonna be a huge benefit to everybody. But it is gonna be really goofy to have this rural section, and then we hit curb and gutter for, it's only 1,000 feet. We're gonna have like this curb and gutter bike lane situation, and then we're back to rural. So what I was suggesting was, look, nobody's gonna come along east of the yellow and curb and gutter it and build trails. It's not gonna happen. You have to condemn everybody's property. There's no right of way on the south side. It would never happen. Same with the west of there may be, Clark is on the north side of them, but there's a bunch of small lots on the west. So you probably have to condemn that too. So, with the money that's there, doing a minimum 11-foot lanes and tying the sidewalk in, whether that sidewalk is 5 foot or 12 foot, however we can fill in the gaps, that's the best situation. Because what happens, and I see these people every day, here's what they do. They come out of Arden Preserve, and they have a sidewalk in front of Arden Preserve, but these folks, they're not inmates, they don't want to be stuck in their neighborhood. Arden Preserve sidewalk goes nowhere, and they don't walk on it because they got to cross a giant ditch to get out to the road. So they come out and they go straight to the road, and they walk down the road because it's nice.
I saw
You saw 'em.
saw the mom with the stroller.
The
Yeah.
cross-country team trains out there.
Right.
People walk with strollers. I mean, a sidewalk of some sort connecting all the way to 41, where we do have the trail, which will hook into 52 and Ridge, and it goes into Connerton. Like, that network is there. It's just getting from Renner to 41. And it's a
So,
lot cheaper to build that than pavement.
let me ask our staff a question, and maybe I jumped the gun. What is the trail plan out here? Yeah, see, you see why I'm asking for that person, Mike? I'm sorry.
I mean, I will say that this is part of a Vision Road network.
Yeah.
And along that Vision Road, as you can see from the section, there is in that section contemplation for a 12-foot trail and a 5-foot sidewalk. I think what you have here is the way that development is occurring. Yes, it's a bit, it may appear to be a bit patchwork, as Mr. Couch, points out. However, at some point, it is the county's vision to connect. I will tell you, on the other end of this particular segment of road in Bexley, it looks exactly like that 80-foot segment. So if it is the plan and what the staff is doing is trying to fulfill the vision of that plan, we will have transitional areas. Now, based on some of the stuff that I saw from the public that was presented, I get the issue between Arden Preserve and that yellow segment. I have no issue with the county working out a deal with the developer to pay the developer to connect that 5-foot sidewalk, so there's not a discontinuity there. But we will have discontinuities and transitions as we move to fulfill this vision, which is what staff is doing.
But
So,
why is the trail only coming, if I understood him right, the trail only coming in the yellow and not in the blue?
I would suspect, and I'll defer to Terry and the team, that we lack sufficient right-of-way in that area.
Well, then, why aren't we getting some of the purple for the right-of-way?
Again, it's a chicken and the egg. I mean, at some point, you have to fulfill the sections and the visions, and we will come later. I promise you, if we do it the way that Mr. Couch is, we will be paying for that right-of-way in the future, and we will pay a significant penny for it.
But the northern part is the Clark MPUD, and the southern part's the Renner, so where are you gonna get the right-of-way if you don't get it now?
I'll have to defer to the team. I would assume that we would work that out as part of the development agreements, but I don't know where those stand.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
the yellow part, is that, the yellow part and the pink part, is that in the Clark MPUD as well?
nope, they're in the north. They're building a road to the north,
But
right?
Yes, that's in the Clark MPUD.
Are you asking if the Clark MPUD is paying for that? Because they're not.
No, I'm just, no, I know we had the right-of-way from it, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
If that's part of the Clark MPUD, if we're getting the right-of-way for the pink and the yellow, I'm sure we gotta be getting the right-of-way for the blue.
Section C, you're talking about?
The Section A, so
C is
If
the
they can
pink
pull up the
or red.
updated Vision Road exhibit, it
Section
shows
C is
the
the
Clark
existing road.
property MPUD.
I'm
Can they pull up this?
Is this ready for prime time here? Because we're having a lot of discussion on this. I'm just being honest.
Can
I
you
mean,
pull up
These are the
this
types of things we want to
exhibit?
have worked out before they come in front of us.
It's on the agenda
So we're not
package.
having to make engineering decisions on the dais.
You know, when I walked it with our,
Engineering degree.
It's
when I walked it with our engineers,
page 6.
it was discussed that they were gonna have to figure out meeting the two, but it doesn't sound like that was figured out.
I mean, I think the blue segment seems to be the issue here at
Yeah.
this point. I think we have the yellow and the purple worked out. The blue segments go through, Brad, can you perhaps explain a little more?
Sure. Again, this is what we consider a very small project. So they only had to come up with the substandard road improvements. The substandard road improvements do not mean adding all of the ultimately desired amenities of the county. They're just to bring that up to what's the substandard road level. It's different than our typical section. So what's happening there in the blue is that substandard road improvement that they were required to do. What the board then requested was that they pick up from the end of that and put in the Vision Road segment. So the yellow is the Vision Road segment, which has the typical there. And then where they're tying that back in to the other road, they weren't including that. And that's what Mr. Carbala said, that we'd be willing to work with them on adding that sidewalk back in. So there's a connection there on that north side.
Okay, but
But that's why they're three different things.
I need us to be talking about the multi-use trail and the sidewalk, right? I mean, so just, when you say add the sidewalk on the north side, the multi-use trail is on the north side. So is there a sidewalk on the blue side, or is there nothing but road right now in the blue? I mean, doesn't every neighborhood have to have a sidewalk in front of it right now? At the minimum?
Jay Honning again, we have sidewalk in front of our project, along their frontage.
Okay, as you go along, so we have pink and purple. So I'm now talking about the purple and the blue. So, and I'm sorry, I guess we don't have a diagram of it, and maybe it's buried in here. You have sidewalk in only the blue section, or from the corner of your purple all the way to the other corner of your purple, on the north side?
We have sidewalk from the west side of the purple, on the left, to halfway up the purple, right before that bend. So along the entire frontage of the purple.
Okay.
Madam
developer's
Chair.
providing sidewalk.
And what about the multi-use trail on the north?
The multi-use trail is only being proposed for the yellow section. It's on the south, south side of the road, and there's also, as per the Vision Road typical section we're being asked to build, there's a 5-foot sidewalk on the north side of the Vision Road. So what we're doing.
5 foot?
What we're doing, I'm sorry, what we're doing is we're building a section of the future Vision Road.
Madam Chair, if they pull up the other map, it might be a little easier.
I asked them what exhibit they need, but I'm feeling a continuance is coming because
Yeah, Madam
this
Chair.
is kind of messed up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know you gotta get it done again, but now we're sitting, it's kind of like last
I-
time.
we
We're gonna
can't-
see, yeah, we're gonna go back and forth all day.
You know, 200 yards of multi-use trail.
So just
It
to
doesn't connect
clarify-
on the ends.
The portion on the north side of the road along the
That doesn't help
frontage of this
anything.
property, there are other properties, there are other owners there, and it would pretty much require the condemnation of some of those properties, or at least a portion thereof, to be able to do that full multi-use on.
Well, then the
blue
road needs to
section.
come south a little bit.
Okay, and that was not what was agreed to
How
during
co-
the MPUD.
This-
The MPD's done.
Yeah.
Guys, you can't plan to have a multi-use trail that's only 200 yards long.
It starts somewhere. Every sidewalk starts with a sidewalk of block. It's not 10 miles long to begin with. There are pieces that come and pieces that get filled in.
But
I think Mike Carbala has made a commitment that we're going to do what we need to do to create this vision and make this happen.
Why didn't we swing Bexley down a little bit? I don't know.
We're not gonna fix it today, Madam Chair.
Yeah, we're not going to fix this today, and,
Madam Chair?
yeah.
Hi, Mike Dady, KB Homes, 19810 Morton Bliss Drive. I have been sworn. Thank you all for your patience today. This came up at the last minute. The Vision Road, as you know, was an off-site road. It's $3 million of cost that we're building, and that's been planned, and there's been a year of work into it. The sidewalk just came up. Could you please approve, if possible, or consider approval of the DA as presented with this $3 million Vision Road? And we'll agree to come back and do an amendment to the DA within 6 months. That should give time for staff to work on the sidewalks, get Jeremy Couch's input, some good exhibits for you for the next time we come up here. We just have $3 million worth of impact fee credits. We can only utilize 700,000, so we'd like to talk to you in 6 months about how that can be done, working with the county. But we're here for the long haul, but please let us move forward. It's been a very long process, and we're cooperative.
Yeah.
We just can't plan for these possibilities and eventualities that no one knows yet.
Madam Chair,
Sidewalks.
going to the county attorney, how would we, Madam Chair, sorry, Mr. Steinsnyder, thinking about his suggestion about approving the DA somehow in the motion to, within 6 months, bring back an amendment. How would we do that? Because I'm not familiar, I've never seen that. David?
It can be done.
Okay.
Mr. Goldstein and I had the conversation about doing it. It may be more appropriate to say, to trigger it to a stopper
Okay.
as well as the 6 months. But David, did you have some language for that?
I don't have the exact language, but we could add a sentence to the development agreement, sounds like you're in agreement with, that within 6 months, prior to the issuance of the preliminary site plan approval, the line to include development agreement amendment that addresses the required multi-use paths and/or sidewalks in the blue and red areas.
Is the district commissioner good with that? With his
You.
suggestion? If you want to make that
And
motion,
I'm okay with that, but,
you can make the motion, and then it'll,
well, I still have, let me ask a few questions, but I'm going to be okay with that. When I look at the map at where your MPUD is, no, Mike, come back up. I see a very nice house there, and I'm guessing that might be Mr. Renner?
It's Mr. Renner's house, who's anxious to find green
Sure.
pastures.
Sure. And is his house staying or is his house going?
No, ma'am, it's going.
Oh, looks like a nice house.
It is.
So, and I'm not saying that you guys need to take on more costs, because I understand that your project only generates so much that you're already putting a lot in. What I'm saying is county has to have a plan. And I wish that was already worked out. Yeah.
I was intentionally vague in the language I suggested because I didn't say it was for credits. I mean, it may be that the county could use some bicycle pedestrian mobility fees in this area to assist the developer with those costs, but that's something we'd have to work out through the amendment.
All right, and I'm okay with that, as long as we, and I know it's a lot of our responsibility to figure out how to connect that, but it just, I just feel we need to have a plan. And with that, I'm going to let the
Madam Chair.
resident commissioner make the motion.
Just a little more discussion, though, just
Okay.
for future as well. We had the Arden MPUD coming in. That connection should have been made
Right.
out to 41.
Agreed.
And
Well,
we should have been part of that mix, right out to 41. That should have been done at that point in time. When the Clark MPUD was out here, all this roadway improvements going on their property. Why didn't get that get included when they were coming in, even if we had to give impact fee credits? Now, I understand we can get the right-of-way we need because they're not building anything, especially in the red section and part of that yellow, but again, that's something that in a master plan unit development, we should have done that.
That's
And-
why I feel we need that person that we don't have right now. Yeah.
Madam Chair. So originally, the road was not cutting through. It was borderline and adjacent to the Clark property, just like the red. The yellow originally went down until the road had gotten shifted northern.
Yeah, and we're being donated all that land to the left of the red stripe, that's been donated to the county. So there's plenty of room for a multi-use trail on that north side.
The county still has to request that land, ma'am.
We have now requested it.
It's not his land to give, but
Hey, whoever has to ask, let's make sure we do the asking.
I
All
would
right,
be more
so
comfortable.
I think we can figure this out. I would, it would have been good to be figured out ahead of time, but I understand.
I would be more comfortable if it was resolved prior for me to make that motion.
I'll make the motion, I'll make the motion to approve the DA under
With that
the
condition.
consideration of Mr. Goldstein. Can you repeat that, please?
Okay.
To add a sentence to the DA that within 6 months of this approval, or prior to the first preliminary site plan approval, they'll enter into a DA amendment that addresses the requirement for sidewalks and/or multi-use paths within the red and blue areas shown on this graphic.
That's my motion.
Second.
Okay, and I'm sorry, under discussion, I'm going to say something to Mr. Couch, because I'm not sure you finished your presentation, but I did talk with staff about getting rid of the bike lane, and they're thinking about just changing that name and not calling it a bike lane, because who wants to bike there? And calling it the, what do you want to call it, the shoulder or something? They feel it's necessary to have that in case there's a car issue. So I think that's a discussion we need to have, that does every road have to have that extra 6 feet on the sides? I don't know. You know, maybe, I think we're giving up a lot to have that 3 foot. I think it's 3 foot on each side, on every single road.
Well, we can do this, and this is what we're going to get worked out when it comes back now, so. there's
But
no
I
need-
did cut off Mr. Couch on his presentation.
Commissioner, I would just ask if you could say also to 41, because if we're going to spend sidewalk money, the last segment is in front of county-owned property. And the way you just said it, they don't have to build that. If we give them the money, it'd be nice for them to build that too.
I don't think that's going to be them, I think that's going to be us.
It may be more appropriate to handle that as a project in the future. I understand that connectivity is important,
Yeah.
but I also understand there are some technical challenges and some right-of-way issues on that side as well.
But if that property, guys, is coming in, we got to make sure that whatever staff is working on it knows that that's got to connect to 41.
So Madam Chair, I want to be clear about why I did not include any area other than the red and the blue. It's because the developer's already doing construction in the red and blue areas, so it makes sense that if they have a contractor out there anyway, that they put in the sidewalks. They are not planning to do any construction east of the red area. So
Yeah,
that's-
no,
that's a-
I know, that's on us,
Okay.
in my opinion, and if we want to hire the contractor to continue, if we have the money, we can do that, and
I
I,
agree, he's,
yeah.
eventually he's going to 41, but like you said, it's going to be a project, you have to put that in your,
yeah.
And where is the school located? It's,
Arden MPUD has a trail, a connecting trail behind there, and then Clark has one as well, so.
so there will be a connected trail for students to
Well,
walk across.
there isn't
and
right
then
now in the blue, that's part of the problem.
call
All
the question, we have a first motion, and
Yeah.
a second.
right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, good luck, guys. All of y'all. Okay, all right, we're back to the Rs. And I'm gonna have to keep this straight.
I have that we're at R78, I heard that it's going to be continued.
Okay, let me see, R78.
Was the one you had a conversation with
Del
Mr.
Deschamps.
Deschamps.
Oh, yeah, so if we're on R78, Dr. Deschamps couldn't stay, so we are going to move that presentation to December 6th, I think, here in Newport Richey. R79, was that the one that we already did?
No,
No, we did 77.
the purchasing directors.
Okay, R79.
Good afternoon, Carrie Roberts, Purchasing Director. I'm here today to do the introduction of the purchasing ordinance changes. The major changes that we'd like to bring to your attention are the cybersecurity changes that have been added due to the Florida Statute 282.318 that went into effect July 1st, which which makes cybersecurity purchases exempt in certain situations. And then also, we would be asking for updates to the purchasing thresholds and approvals. You've each been briefed individually on these. If you would like me to expand on any of them, I can. We have the presentation, which we can go over if you'd like, or I can just answer questions.
Answer questions?
Well,
Right?
I know I had made some comments. I didn't know if those comments got into any changes, or did you leave it as original?
Not yet, ma'am. Our plan was to get any questions and comments from today, and then in between this and the second reading, propose those changes and bring those back to you.
All right, and you got those?
Let's take action today?
No.
No action
No, sir,
today.
this is just
This is,
introduction.
this is introduction, so you will have, come back with with a single public hearing for this project, for this
Okay.
ordinance.
Well, if you have my comments from our meeting, then that's fine with me.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm good too.
Commissioner Mariano,
I'm good as well. Move approval?
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, R, do we have an R80?
Yes.
Okay, R80.
That's your local paving MSTU.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
This is
All right.
long overdue.
Good afternoon. So this is PIPA 230012, Local Road Paving Municipal Service Taxing Unit, also known as an MSTU. My apologies, I didn't introduce myself. Justin Grant, Public Infrastructure, Fiscal and Business Administration Director. Dive right in here. Quick background on paving and paving assessments. I won't go through every item on this timeline slide here, but it's notable that back in 1985, ordinance number 8506 kind of starts to establish where the county starts doing special assessments on things like paving. In 2002, you start to see the formulation via ordinance number 0217 starts to get into the ERU methodology. That starts to form the basis of what we use today for PVAS. Then in 2013, we transitioned the billing to the tax bill. We start to take the steps that are necessary to put it on the tax bill. And so you get into 2015, where projects that came on to the board in 2016 and after transitioned into the tax bill. That's notable because prior to this, you'll hear terms like anniversary billing that was used for PVAS. That was a separate billing practice that the county took on, mailed out billings separate from the tax bill. We'll walk through some challenges that are with the PVAS program, collections, things like that, delinquencies that go with that. When you get to the tax bill, that's a whole different ballgame. So here you go. The problem with the current PVAS program is it doesn't collect sufficient revenue to sustain itself. This board has heard that a number of different times in a number of different ways, and right now that requires continued support from the Road and Bridge Fund and or other funds within the county. So three main points here. You've got a couple of pictures of different roads, but right now PVAS doesn't contemplate continued maintenance under PVAS assessments. So that means that you can go in and you can do a road, in a lot of cases, right, FDR and things like that, full depth reclamation, and there's not a continuing maintenance program. So that same road can come back 20 years from now and need to go back into the PVAS program the way that the program currently operates. It also doesn't provide an option to transition B roads or dirt roads. So you've heard Public Works and Branford specifically talk about some of those items before. PVAS doesn't offer an option to handle those types of things. And finally, we presented to this board a couple of times, and Public Works has done a great job doing local road data collection on everything we've got. When you start to tally up those numbers, it's pretty massive, right? $1.2 billion over 30 years to try and make those transitions, pave things, get into a program. So how do we assess, how do we manage that? So you've seen this slide in a number of different separate meetings and before this board before. I won't get too incredibly detailed on this, but what it's basically saying is, rather than, and you've heard actually Branford in prior presentations, go through and talk about maintenance on your car, right? So going through and when you do your oil changes, change your fluids, stay up on that, right? You prevent larger dollar and more major maintenance later on, right? So your average upkeep is lower in dollar and in intensity. And so you see these graphs here where in the bottom left, right, your road starts out between 90 and 100 when you're doing that. And you can, in the top right graph, illustrates where if you're spending incremental dollars in rejuvenation, which is at a much lower cost, you're able to keep the life of that road longer at a greater condition at a much lower cost, right? So when you get down into the yellows, oranges, and reds, you're spending far more dollars to do much larger projects, increasing your total cost into the road. So the successor strategy is to establish a local road paving MSTU, Municipal Service Taxing Unit. And so that's going to do a couple things, right? It's going to transition over to a millage-based process. The funding becomes 100% tax billing, provides consistent, stable source of funds. Project area is intended to be similar to what's with PVAS. And we have the option with an MSTU, work with the county attorney's office, to make sure that we have the options to exclude areas that holistically do these types of services on their own. So municipalities that exist within the county that do this, as well as certain CDDs that completely own the roads, do all their own maintenance, we would be able to exclude them from this district. So, important timeline, right? This is a very complex and multi-step process. And so we're here in the first step of that process here to make sure that we get direction from the board if they choose that this is in fact the option that they want to move forward as the vehicle to replace PVAS. And so that's today here on the 25th. The next step would be in December. And this would be where staff would come back and present findings to the board, really define who's in and who's out in terms of the benefiting area, and establish an MSTU role and an ordinance for consideration. Then in spring of 2023, this is where we would present additional findings to the board and start to talk more into the minutia, which is including, I know a lot of us will have questions on what is the rate going to be, how do we calculate that? The short answer is that is a discussion that for part of this process here would be best to be had there in the spring of 2023, as well as how do we wind down PVAS, right? Something that's been going on for 30 plus years, lots of different variations on how one might do that, right? And so we're working to go through all those things, collect all the intricate data, and present a number of concise options for the board to consider. Then finally, in summer 2023, if it's an MSTU, as a part of the budget process for the next budget year and tax year, we would go through and follow the trim process and do our hearings and do that for year one. And so that would be in summer of 2023. That would allow, if the board follows this calendar here, for our first billing to be on the tax bill issued November 1st of 2023. So therefore, the recommended action for today is the first step in that process on the prior slide, which is to direct staff to move forward, choose the MSTU as the vehicle, if the board does that as its pleasure, that's the vehicle you'd like to use to replace PVAS. Make that decision today, direct staff to prepare the necessary things, work with the county attorney's office to prepare an ordinance, and come back and see you in December.
Board members, any questions?
Madam Chair, just to reiterate something, make sure the public hears this too. CDDs that currently maintain the roads, of course, they'll be carved out.
HOAs too.
And then there's some HOAs as well, but that's important because obviously those folks already pay to maintain their roads, the ones that do it. So I just want to make sure that, just to restate, if you could restate that.
Sure, yeah, so the intention, and while it's a very complex and labor-intensive exercise, there's a number of different CDDs throughout the county, and there's a handful that we've identified that holistically own, do maintenance, and own those roads and assess their residents for that activity. The intention of this unit would be to exclude them from that. Now, there's a number that have hybrids that, there's not road ownership, and there's certain right-of-way issues. There's some that kind of fall in the middle. We're working through a lot of those details right now, so you'll have that kind of coming for consideration in the spring. But yes, to succinctly answer your question, if they holistically handle all of that on their own, they assess their residents for such, they would not be part of this district.
Yeah, because some of them actually, as we know, because of the past DAs, actually allow the public on the roads, but those CDs still maintain or 100% obligated, to maintain their roads and their sidewalks as well. So that's obvious, and I love seeing that because, again, it's not on the rest of the county taxpayers' back. You make a choice to live there because it's being maintained and you're paying for it. You know what you're in for before you buy it. But just want to make that statement so people that are already paying for it don't think they're going to pay for it again.
So the one clarification is, the intent is that those subdivisions which had county roads, but the maintenance responsibility was turned over to the HOA.
Or CDD.
Would,
Right.
well, no.
Oh, you're talking about HOAs
You
now.
wouldn't have this
Okay,
scenario
you're
with a
talking
CDD.
about HOAs now, only HOAs.
So,
Gotcha.
yeah, so back in the day, before I got here, there were plats that they were county, local roads,
Right.
but the associations were tasked with maintenance responsibility. Those would be in this program, because those are also the people who are coming to you and saying, we need to be PVASed because we can't. They're not really maintaining the roads.
Gotcha. Some of the old
If
road
it's
and bridge
purely,
district.
if it's purely private,
Yeah,
those, we wouldn't be maintaining their roads. They're still
Right.
private roads. But if it is a, like, areas of Moon Lake, the plats all say that they're public roads, but the county doesn't normally maintain.
Gotcha.
Maintain them except for extraordinary circumstances.
But they would now be taking over those roads.
Some point in some point, this program would move those into the system for maintenance, yes.
Yeah, that's correct. Based on however the millage is established, and these are the details that we're talking about, our intention would be to migrate B roads into county maintenance, as well as look at dirt roads and other things as we come. That will depend on funding and other things, which will be discussed.
100% of the roads will not be done the first year you levy millage.
I promise you. It's a big number over many years.
Most of them in my district.
I have a comment on dirt roads, but I'll save it because Commissioner Mariano
And I
had
was
his
going to
hand
go
up.
right to dirt roads, so
Okay.
right on line. Because it's, for those that, the CDDs obviously separate from that makes sense, HOAs as well taking care of it. But those that are living on paved roads compared to the ones that are on dirt roads, I would find it hard to accept that a person on a paved road would end up paying the same assessment as someone on a dirt road.
That's what I was going
So
to
I'm
say
going
as
to be
well.
looking for something where, if it is a dirt road, there could be an extra assessment put on it when it's done, kind of like a
Agreed.
PVAS is now. Once they're up to code from there, then it can go away. But you've got to make that separation.
So I will tell you that the majority of county governments, that's what they use PVAS for. They don't call it PVAS, but the special assessment process is used to take a dirt road and make it asphalt and bring it into the county system. That's how.
And maybe we need to still do that. But again, it wouldn't be as much money for them to convert the dirt road, because they're going to be paying this as well. So there may be a cut of, let's say I'll just say it's $100 a year. For a dirt road, it may be, you make that $200
Sure.
compared
Sure.
to the other. Whatever, and I'm just throwing out numbers.
Certainly, and as we've kind of stated, right, there's a reason why there's a number of different meetings and a lot of staff time built into this. County Attorney did an excellent job describing the complexities of our road system and all the different dedications that have happened over the last 30, 40 years. There's a lot of trying to rectify that, analyze that, bring all that in. The other thing with PVAS, like you're talking about, we'll present some different options. One of the main functions with PVAS that creates some of those issues is the funding issue, which is all those different designations in terms of discounts and things like that have created significant negative cash flow, which is why we're standing here today, among a number of other reasons. And so with an MSTU, I know it's been talked before, right, when you get out of an MSBU, which is special benefit, flat things, and you get into more of a taxable assessment, the intention fundamentally is to have a more uniform system. We'll certainly try and make sure we analyze all those situations you're mentioning, though.
And I tell you, Josh, I give you a lot of credit for bringing this forward. I mean, you've done some great work for this county to bring very complex things together to make it happen. So,
Thank you, sir.
when we did that Highlands PVAS, we had like different categories of roads that the people that had the nice road didn't have to pay as much, et cetera. And I think if you set that up, once they're on the dirt road and they get it paved, then they can go into, let's say, the regular MSTU. And once that's done, that can be eliminated. So you might have to separate out Section A for dirt roads and then Section B for paved roads. That may be what it takes.
So the only thing I would say is just to prepare the board for the complexity and the elements that are associated with that. We'll work closely with the county attorney's office. When you get into the TU, the idea here was to be able to have and certainly not resisting what you're saying, those are all great points. You're looking at a broad umbrella that's going to cover things, exclude large, polygons and things like that, rather than getting into a BU type test that we've discussed before that gets into individual property assessments directly off of a road, which is kind of like what PVAS does in some of those smaller districts now.
Well,
And
you can
Madam Chair.
call it whatever you want, just have a system to have people on a paved road pay more to have it paved, because
The problem
Madam
is,
Chair.
Madam Chairman, that you're going to set it, unless you create separate MSTUs,
well, maybe that's what we do.
the millage is the millage. So
Well-
whatever you levy is going to be the millage for the entire MSTU.
Okay, well, that's,
It's like fire.
And Madam Chair,
yep.
and that's a perfect example, because if you have someone with a $300,000 home living on a paved road, and then you have someone in a $20,000 or $80,000 mobile home living on a dirt road, the dirt road is going to pay less, but they're going to be cost more. It's going to cost them more to upgrade their roads. And then what if there are private roads out there that want to keep their dirt roads?
If they're private, we're not touching them.
Okay.
So, yeah, so private roads would be excluded from this.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
One more thought too, something for bigger picture as far as we're going, and I know we've looked at it with doing concrete, but the ash that we have at the plant. As we're gonna do these dirt roads to cut down the cost and make it more affordable and provide a longer-term benefit for the county for those giant piles that if we can eliminate, I think the ash should be tried to looked at wherever we can, because obviously you gotta have the right sea level height for it to work. But I think we should be looking at incorporating that as well.
I also saw somewhere, I think at the NACO conference, I think it was, that people were taking, glass, and not putting glass in the road, but really putting it back to sand or whatever, and adding that to road base.
Yeah, I think that'll come down to project-specific ideas on how to stretch those dollars and resources, but absolutely, appreciate the input.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say, with the ash, it actually reduced it to a fraction of the cost of the roads.
Yeah, that's why we're doing it. I am really glad this is coming forward. We heard someone today talking about potholes, and they said the road is good because they have potholes, but that pothole's only as good till the next big rain, and then it pops out. And it's super costly for the taxpayers to keep coming back in and fixing your potholes. So I'm really glad that we're bringing this. I wish we had gotten it done with all these commissioners, because we're going to have 2 new commissioners, and, you know, they haven't been through the pain of what we go through when we go through a PVAS project.
They'll get their chance.
Of course, also, we have that, the challenge, and I'm sure we can do it, is if, for example, my neighborhood, Aristida, just is going through the PVAS program, and we have some folks here who just had a cul-de-sac go through, and there will be a way, this is kind of for the public, there will be a way that you will be assimilated into the new program, so you won't be paying twice, and your cost will kind of be switched to the new one. So we'll have this little buffer time. So, yeah. All in favor? Woo-hoo. Aye. I'm so glad. I wish it was all done already.
Me too.
Okay.
Long time coming.
Have to what?
You did it. Who's in favor, but you didn't do it.
Oh, anyone opposed? Nope. Okay. All right, now, are we done with the Rs?
Yep.
Okay, Commissioner items, Commissioner Oakley.
All right. On October 25th, we had a cleanup out at Lacucci. It removed 25.75 tons of trash was removed from the Lacucci community cleanup on Saturday, October the 15th. Special thanks to Sonid and for coordinating the event, and the county staff, volunteers, and area residents that participated in making this event a success. I think you keep seeing in all of our districts, when we have these cleanups, that we're getting that kind of tonnage out of there that's just sitting around in those neighborhoods. Another thing I'd like to bring up was the, here's some pictures of that cleanup in Lacucci.
I see you got a boat. On mine, we got a jet ski.
See there? A lot of work. That's Mr. Riley there in the background there, so. There he is here. Chow him down. So they all had a great time getting the cleanup, so.
Wonderful.
Yep. It's been real good. But on Thursday of this week at 11 o'clock at the historic courthouse, we're going to have a groundbreaking ribbon cutting of the start of the Fallen Officer Memorial, which we've all been waiting on for many, many years. It's finally that time, and we're going to move forward with it. It'll be a great day in Pasco to have that started, and eventually we'll have a ribbon cutting when that's all prepared for the community. So it's been long time happening, and it's great that you can be talking about it. I talked to Andrew Baxter today. We've been fighting through just getting it done. So we're going to have that at 11
When is
o'clock
that?
11 o'clock on Thursday.
Oh, no, I have the
Historic
Metropolitan
Courthouse.
Ministries.
It won't last long,
Leadership
but
event. Okay.
yeah, but it'll be good to see it happening. So, okay, that's all I got.
No, you did a good job. You worked hard on that.
Well, we
so-
worked hard on that, but a friend of mine, Randy Blankenship, helped me. I had reached out to Craig Rapport, and they'd been held up. They said their funding had quit on getting money to help prepare for paying for the memorial and all the construction that has to go in it. And I said, well, how much money do you need? And his first answer was, oh, 50 or 60,000. And come to find out, it was, I said, well, why don't you think about it and tell me tomorrow what you think it should be? And they came back with 100,000. And, but they'd stopped being able to fundraise because we had COVID during that time. I actually asked Jeff about the possibility of me reaching out to people, neighbors in our community and work with us in the county. But as Ron Oakley and not as a commissioner, Randy and I both were able to successfully get another 100,000, and that was bringing it to a head. But then we had issues with products, and just same as we have here with other items we need for facilities and other things. Delay of products coming and all has held us up. So now we're going to break that ground. We're ready to get started, and that will come to fruition and be a great thing.
How long will
for
it take?
Pasco County.
How long do you think it's going to take to build it?
Good question. I would hope, I'd hope it happened in 8 months if it takes longer than that. I mean, we've got the memorial.
Do you have your
We've
permits?
got to build the base and then have other items come, so.
Oh, it's in the city.
I think
Okay.
it'll happen pretty quick, but I'll tell you what, I will push until we get it done, so. It's something that's been long needed here in Pasco County to be there for those fallen officers that we've had over the years.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yep.
Anything else?
That's it.
Commissioner Moore?
Thank you, ma'am. 2 appointments, 2 TDC appointments. We have openings. The first one, Pascal Collard, Sarah Vandenberg Tennis Center and Wellness Center for a seat for someone that's demonstrated an interest in the tourism development industry. Obviously a perfect fit, you know, the great things they're doing there. So if I could have a second, I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay.
Second one, there's a TDC opening for a hotelier. Rebecca Hayes has the dual role of general manager and the director of sales for the Residence Inn by Marriott, run by Mainsail. That's the one next to our Wiregrass Sports Campus.
Oh, nice.
Obviously makes sense for that person, considering that they're leasing our, our land here in Pasco County, and they're good partners.
I second that.
Thank you, Rebecca Hayes. I have a motion.
And there was a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Great. Thank you, Madam
Okay.
Chair. Thank you for the votes on that. Last one, if we could, if you don't mind putting that senior games volunteer sign up for me. As you know, our DMO, Florida Sports Coast, Adam Thomas and his team has done an excellent job working with the Florida Senior Games. And as you saw, was it 3 years? We have it 3 years in a row coming up. So they need volunteers for those at home. December 3rd through 11th. If you go on the Florida Sports Coast website or the Florida Senior Games website as
I
well.
signed up for seat sitting.
Seat sitting.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a new.
You can
new-
check people in
Yeah.
at the event.
That's
But
right.
they need volunteers like anything else. So December 3rd to 11th, and one of the groups of people that are needing those volunteer hours, a lot of our students, they're looking to get their Bright Future Scholarship, so it's a perfect opportunity for high school students especially to go out there and gain their hours. So 3rd through the 11th, they need volunteers. And for now, that's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Fitzpatrick?
Well, real quick, I'll just mention the Commission for Human Trafficking. Students in the Pasco County Schools will be putting together 3 PSAs to help raise awareness on human trafficking. Last weekend, I did attend the Tunnel to Towers event, which is great because they house and build houses for our gold member families and our wounded veterans. And of course, it's right here in Pasco County. They're building the Do Good community. And lastly, I just want to mention and just put on everyone's radar, when we have our youth in Pasco County that want to play different sports, and of course, we've all heard we need more fields. When I hear different leagues, other than Little League, that would like to be able to utilize our baseball fields, and we have travel teams out there, and they have to play on men's men's softball fields, I find it upsetting because we need to make sure that all of our youth are able to utilize these fields. And I know a couple years ago when I first came into office, it was a discussion that the Little League fields would be writing down and having to rent the fields, just so basically we knew which days of the week that the fields were actually being utilized. Say they only use them, instead of blocking out Monday through Friday from 6 to 9, they can say, okay, we're utilizing the fields these specific hours, so maybe Thursday there's a 2-hour gap where another youth league can come in and utilize those fields. I think our baseball fields and any youth field needs to be utilized by everyone in Pasco County and not just one group, because I feel like we're spending millions of dollars for one specific league.
Every middle school has a field, and why they're not able to use them, I don't understand it.
Very good observation. So I'll work on moving forward with that as well. But just keep an eye out on that, because I am going to do a lot more digging into that situation, just to make sure that all kids and all of our youth in Pasco County have a field to play on. Thank you.
Commissioner Mariano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of things. We had a great cleanup at Sea Pines over the weekend. Saturday, there was a group of people out there. We took everything from all the ditches along Old Dixie, cleaned it all out. They were very appreciative to have the stormwater project moving forward. They had a vote of like 147 or 87 to 7, some crazy numbers, so it was great. Our staff did a great job cleaning up at Griffin Park, and we'll have schedule another cleanup for Embassy and Regency Park coming up.
Well, you get one a year.
Well, Embassy, they're one.
Huh?
They're one. Embassy and Regency Park, they're one.
Yeah, no, but you get one per calendar year, so if you just did one, the calendar year start October 1st.
I think they
Unless we change that policy, but,
Well, I
One
think-
per fiscal year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right, one per district per fiscal year.
right. So if you just did one, when did you do it?
Griffin Park is in
Both?
my district now.
Yeah, Griffin Park was just a staff going out there cleaning a little area.
Oh, okay, then you're
And
gold.
Sea Pines was just all the
Okay.
residents, so.
Well, wait a minute. I don't know if you're gold or not, that's on them.
No, it was a small little area that was.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it
along an
matters if
impaired
it's
water
small
body
or
that had to
big.
get done, but anyway, no, it wasn't a neighborhood cleanup.
Okay.
I've got an opening on the MPO. James Mallow has inquired to be on it. I've asked him to be on it. He's agreed. That's my motion.
Madam Chair, the MPO appointment should be made by the MPO.
Oh, the MPO, okay.
Yes.
Oh, we'll make that,
If you could
we'll
just
make
make
that
that
the
same
next
motion
time.
at MPO.
I put him on my CAC. Is that, so what's going on? Because he was my appointee.
All right, from my understanding, he's not in the district anymore. He's now in my district.
That's true.
So
He's moved into your district.
that's where I need appointment, I need someone with energy, so I think it'd be
Does that mean now I have to appoint someone?
me.
All right, I'll find somebody.
Okay.
You took my guy.
Okay. I want Commissioner Oakley to be here, but I've got a tape for about 10 minutes long from Robert Koenig from the Contractors Institute I want to play, but I want Mr. Oakley to be in here, so if you want to go on to the next one.
Okay, County Administrator?
Really just one thing. In front of me here are 2 more Telly Awards that we've added to our award closet here in the county. These are the first and only 2 that our Media Relations and Communications team have ever submitted on an award, and they created these videos entirely in-house. So it's actually a pretty big deal. Other winners in the categories that we were included the Center for Disease Control, FEMA, as well as the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and the U.S. Department of Education. It's a huge honor for our folks, considering the number of entries, over 12,000 entries from all 50 states and 5 continents every year. And so, you know, I saw Commissioner Moore eyeing them, you know, make another grab. Got fingerprints on them and everything. If we have time, I could show you 1 or 2 of the videos that won, but otherwise, I'll defer. I know we're trying to. I see Commissioner Oakley's back, so we'll defer that. I'll send you the video links so you can take a look at them at your convenience. But we're really proud. It's a big deal. So thank you to our media relations team.
If that's all you have, then I'm going to come back to you in my commissioner items to talk about development permitting to continue that discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
This tape will be kind of relevant to that as well.
Okay. Oh, you.
You want to do Commissioner,
Okay.
since Commissioner Oakley has just
I'm
come
good
back.
with it. I'm good with time.
So-
Jack has a tape that he wants us to see, and it kind of has to do with the permitting, I guess, the permitting process.
About the rink, ice rink?
No.
No, this is about permitting in general, and the gentleman from the Contractors Institute, Robert Koenig, came to speak. We had a meeting with Mr. Carbella, had Mr. Bellis and Mr. Bailey in here. No permitting staff, just I wanted people to be able to come forward and speak. And this is about a just over 10-minute presentation, but he really kind of like, I think, brought everything to light about what we can do. There's a solution that's out there, and I think he highlighted some heavy stuff, but I think it's something we can use and benefit from.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Moreno, how are you? My name is Bob Koenig, Koening. I'm the director of the Contractors Institute, and I'm a lifelong resident of Pasco County, born in Port Richey, or as when I was a kid, NPR, we called it No Place Really. I hear at the Institute, I hear a lot, and from contractors all over the state. We're one of the largest providers of exam prep and continuing education. And all around the state, building departments largely get beat on, you know, because they're the point everybody's looking. But here in my own hometown, I can't help but feel the frustration. A lot of this, at some point, becomes self-inflicted, these problems we're having. For instance, we have taught many inspectors in Pasco, Pinellas, Hillsborough, Miami, Dade, Jacksonville. I've been teaching inspectors, and building code officials since the 80s. We teach rightfully so. The building code in Chapter 1, the process is supposed to work like this. The building code in Chapter 1 says, hey, these are the things you will submit plans in, and those items will be reviewed by a plans examiner. And that plans examiner, how are you, my friend, will make notes as things that they feel that conflicts with the code. Plans examiners aren't architects or engineers. They're not to review calculations or ask for calculations to be submitted. If you're a plans examiner and you doubt something, ask it to be peer reviewed, okay? So the plans examiner then approves those plans. Those plans then are stamped and are taken out into the field. Then the field inspector goes out there to see, in fact, what that plans examiner evaluated and approved does in fact exist in reality. Okay. Now that list of things that you look at as a plans examiner and those things you follow are codified in Chapter 1 of the code. However, it gives, we all know, Florida Statute 553 conveyed the right for local governments to amend and have more inspections. See? You can have a metal lath inspection. Code doesn't require it, but you can. You can have this roof dry inspection. Code doesn't require it, but you can. You can add all these other things, and that's what we've done. We've put a burden on our inspectors' shoulders that we didn't need to. Listen, there's what the code says you check. There's what you inspect. The rest is up to the builder. If the builder's not doing it right, he's going to get sued civilly. There are rules. We are not, we meaning code officials, because I am both a code official and a contractor, we are not God. We have inspectors out there measuring the shower slopes in the floor for a 1/4 inch per foot and stopping projects. We have inspectors out there say, oh, there's no baffles in high-heeled trusses to stop the blow. When it's impossible, it can't. We have plans examiner holding up grades away from building on a house that was submitted on piers, for God's sakes. Yes, that is incompetence at a level incomprehensible. But we can't fix that. That's rife. The education, the training in the field is bad, and the inspectors is bad. But what we can do is not overburden the inspectors we have. We want to make our duty, at least my opinion, our duty as code officials, is to in fact see that items of public safety are in fact done. If your metal lath is turned a 1/4 turn, as we had one I wrote Esther about, and they red tagged it, that's not even in the code to check. That's not accurate. It wasn't an accurate statement, and there was no reason. But it's what that inspector felt, well, I was trained at. So we need to take a look, in my opinion, as what burden we're putting on our plans examiners and what burden we're putting on our inspectors, and relieve that first. Second, I mentioned this earlier, maybe a year ago, to the building official. I think we really need a 3-panel volunteer group that works with the building department. If you're having problems getting something approved and the departments can't talk, put it to a 3-panel. I'll volunteer. I know a lot of other people will volunteer. We don't have to have any authority, but just say, look, this guy has this problem. Why don't we resolve it like this? We have an owner's affidavit here. A lady sent me, a realtor who I've known for years. A man owns property over 15 years, a trailer, on a piece of property. And he lives up north. The thing is dilapidated. He wants to sell it. He can't come back anymore to Florida. So he says, I can't sell this in good conscience. He says, it wouldn't be safe. We need to tear it down. So he comes down to Florida, he gets an owner's permit to tear the coach down. And I have all the documents. It was just the coach, nothing else. He tears it down. Building department comes out. Oh, well, wait a minute. You didn't tear up all those slabs and things. It's not on the paperwork. They said it was on the paperwork. I got the paperwork. It's not. So we're going to reject it. Oh, by the way, since you pulled an owner's permit, since you can't sell that for a year, that's not what the owners says. They talk to the county attorney before you start spouting nonsense like that off. That's not what it says, but he told him you can't sell it for a year because you improved it. You didn't improve it. You tore a coach down. You demolished it. Dear sweet Jesus. So we get the God syndrome. Nobody seems to be back in our home office that says, that can rein the mule back and say, look, whoa, you're outside your boundaries. If you have a problem with this as the inspector, then I'm going to override it, or I'll take it to a county attorney. See what you say. Now, what does he do? Got to pull a permit. They call me. So what am I supposed to do now? I said, well, I'm a contractor. I'll help you out. I'll charge you $1. So it's legal. Why do we have to do this? Why do we have to go, with as busy as we are, why do we have to go out and check air conditioning serial numbers to say, oh, you bought this property and somebody else changed the unit out unbeknownst to you and now it's double permit fee. You didn't do anything. Well, you're exactly right. It's funding a budget. I'm not stupid, but I didn't want to say it. But the point of that is, that's like me going down buying a car and they sending me the speeding ticket from the previous owner. It's not right. We really need to do a fundamental restructuring of what we're doing here. Other counties have done it with great success. We need to focus on what we are. I was a roofing contractor for 13 years, commercial roofing. Look what we do. A builder I know just builds. They do a framing inspection. Oh, we need to check to make sure that your roof sheathing is nailed off. They send a man out in a truck. Let's make sure that's nailed off. Well, that's a good idea. Let's get up and check it. Oh, no, I'm not allowed to get up there and actually see it. So I'm going to take this board and bump it from underneath. You have got to be kidding me, for the love of Mike. But you got to do that. Then you got to come back and have the dry-in inspected. Well, it's not done yet. Then you got to come back and look at the edge metal for a 4-inch spacing. It has to come in the truck, drive out there, get out and do that. None of that's in the code. We just invented that because I guess we didn't have enough to do. We just want to aggravate people, and that's all it does is aggravate them. Why would you hold that process up? You got a licensed contractor, let him take the photos. Now they're saying you're not uploading enough photos. Well, how many is enough? Well, some say 40, some say 60. Make up your mind. Why not take the affidavit from the contractor? If you feel he's doing something wrong or something, then have the state's attorney look into it, take his license. But don't hold the rest of us up for what maybe 1/4 of 1/10 of 1% of people are doing wrong. So that's a lot of venting. There, I got him. It's frustrating to see my hometown, and I'm powerless to do anything.
No, you're not.
So
You're here tonight.
I'm here tonight, and hopefully I'll do anything I can to help. I'll volunteer anytime. This is complicated, it's difficult, but we got a lot of good people. Let the engineers do the engineering, stamp the plans, and stop arguing with them. They stamp the plans. Is that a licensed engineer? Yes, I'll validate that. That's my job as the official. Okay, none of that needs checking. It's validated. Now, what's item next? And if we have these hiccups, then let's get a 3-member, a help team we can pull together, and we can get down and say, okay, look, guys, let's all work together. Let's get this guy's problem resolved. When we do that, people will start looking back up to us. I remember the days, I can tell you all the building officials, you could walk into their office, sit down, talk to them, and they would have a reasonable explanation. Okay, let's do it this, I understand that. Now, you can't do that with a vast number of people you have. I understand that. But we could put a system in to help them, and we could stop beating up people for trying to do what is right and then punishing them for it. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, Jack, thank you for bringing that to us.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
That's good. Because I know for a fact, when they first said that panel of 3, there's so many times out on the job that an inspector will say one thing and he'll turn it in as a real issue and it stops progress. And the fact of it is, nobody from there can make that final decision, so it takes days instead of a few minutes. And with a panel, it'll take a short period of time to use it. But
So I got one from, I went back, you know, I don't know what happened with this, but we have someone who is running for office, whose sister purchased a house a few months ago, and this was sent to me in August. She purchased the house, and after the purchase was completed, she got a violation and a notice to appear in court. The house had an inspection violation. It wasn't there in the title search when she bought the house, but she bought it, and apparently there was a open inspection violation. Turns out there was a garden structure in the back that wasn't permitted, you know, probably one of those little gazebo things. And so an inspector was passing by and told her, so she removed it. When she found out she had this violation, she removed it. So then they came by and they said, oh, you removed it without a demolition permit.
Oh, my.
another problem.
So it was not a cement structure, it was one of those, you know,
Yeah.
gazebo kit things. And now she has to go to court because it says, so she had to go to court, and I don't know what happened at court. But that didn't, for me, there's like something wrong in that process maybe. But County Administrator, we had a discussion on maybe some solutions, and I see some of our, you know, I know we got some land use attorneys listening and others listening to this discussion today about some of our challenges. And we know our staff's working hard, but are we working smart?
Well said.
So I think we recognize there are a number of challenges that have been with us for quite some time. You know, and I'll even hearken back to, you know, our inability at one point to even get residential building permits out. You know, we're now humming on that as far as, you know, getting residential permits out in like less than 9 days for a single family house. And that's been a boon for us in terms of our growth. So we recognize as we move through things methodically that there are areas of improvement. Clearly, public safety and compliance with the code is of utmost importance. You know, Sally and I have had discussions on what we need in there that should be in there, and what is, I think, as he calls it, extra, right? You know, things that maybe we don't need to, you know, who are we protecting from what? And I think that's the fundamental question that we have to ask ourselves. I think we look at things from a public safety perspective, and if that is the direction that the board wants us to look, we certainly will consider if it's a matter of public safety and strict adherence to the code, that is one thing. If we have ancillary things that perhaps over the years we've had bad experiences on that need to go, we certainly can look at truncating those, you know, from where they exist. I don't know. We have to peel that back. But clearly there's some good points. You know, in my own personal experience, I'm been hit or miss with a lot of these things. There are in some areas where I've, you know, seen these make sense, and in other areas there's things that don't make sense. So not in disagreement with you on some of those fronts. As far as disputes and resolution, non-binding boards, affidavits, those are all tools that we can put in the toolbox. The ultimate aim is efficiency. I can tell you that we definitely want it to be easier to do business in Pasco County, and we're committed to working on that.
I know, I have no doubt that each one of us are getting inundated with what is going on. And yeah, I mean, and you weren't the county administrator, but one of my issues that I dealt with was a contractor here in the county, and you guys don't know this because we have sunshine, and he has a company that builds Chick-fil-A's and McDonald's in 17 states. He has 100 Pasco County employees working for him, and he has a $25 million a year Chick-fil-A contract that he was within 3 hours of losing because he, try as he might, there was one inspector, he doesn't work for us anymore, that when they were all done and ready to go, this was the Chick-fil-A in Trinity, he came back after he'd been there many times and found 17 things wrong that required 4 or 5 different kind of contractor subs to come back. And corporate was pulling the contract from this guy, and he was desperate. So we did get that resolved, and that gentleman doesn't work for us anymore. But I can tell you, the sheriff just told me a horror story this morning, maybe, about an inspection that's going on, that they come out and they say one thing, and then they leave, and maybe you heard the same thing, and they come back and and they're not. It's not all being given at one time. It's one, then one, then one, then one. It's like that doesn't end. And I thought we had kind of taken care of that you couldn't do that, but apparently that may be still continuing. But I know we're all working hard, but we got some challenges. Yeah.
I'm now building a house, and I've not had those issues with my house. And then everybody I tell that to tells me, oh, it's because you're a county commissioner, and you won't have that problem. But I'm here to tell you that what happens to my house and what goes on is worked out and planned and done the right way and inspected the right way. And I expect, not because I'm a commissioner, I expect all our citizens in Pasco County to get that same service. So.
And if I may, I appreciate you saying that, and I don't believe it is because you're a county administrator. I'm sorry, a county commissioner. I believe that, well, I mean, we conduct thousands of permits every month. thousands of permits. And if statistically, if I ran a factory and I had a reject rate of less than 1%, we're going to have issues.
Yeah.
I think the question is how do we resolve those issues? And we certainly are committed to resolving issues. And I know that our inspectors do a very good job in the field. Do we have issues of training? Do we have problems? Yes, absolutely. And we're committed to working on those. But I appreciate that.
And so,
Part of what I'm saying in that is we have those issues at times all over the county and all of our districts at times. And it may only be a few, but gosh, they happen at the worst time in the world. So it seems like it's way more than maybe what it is. But we need to not have any of those.
yeah. And I did learn of I just recently learned of a bottleneck in the stormwater department where we have one guy who has a critical role apparently, and there's only one person. And so, and we have, we have these high priority projects going through, so they put it in front of him, and he works on it, and then before he can go to the long list, they put another priority one in front of him, and there's one guy. So I wish we had a system that if we knew that there were, and I don't, I had hopes for Acela, and I don't think it does, maybe doesn't do enough, but, at McDonald's, if your order doesn't come out in a certain time, it starts going beep, 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 and it alerts you got an issue. And if there's a bottleneck, why aren't we, we should know where the bottlenecks are, and we should be addressing those, in my opinion.
Yes, of course, and bear in mind, of course, once you clear one bottleneck, you create another one, right? That's the
But you gotta
as you
start
go
clearing
through
them.
process improvement
Yeah.
and efficiencies, that kind of morphs into some issues. And I know, we've spoken with Branford, and that particular issue is getting worked on, and site plans, MPUDs, and those things. And again, I think Terry had kind of alluded to a few things on that front, some changes that I think are be implemented this week that I think will help on that front.
And I didn't
so
know if you want to share those with.
I would ask Terry to maybe come up and talk a little bit about it.
Yeah,
And Madam Chair.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to use an example.
Well, Terry's going to speak to us. Is this about what he's speaking to us about?
It's kind of what you went off of, but I can go after him.
Okay, go ahead, Terry.
Good afternoon. Victoria Pitos, Planning and Development. So we are working on a number of initiatives in the Planning and Development Department to help us mitigate the workload that we've been experiencing the last few months. I guess I could start off by saying that we're preparing a number of revisions to the Land Development Code. I alluded to one this morning as it relates to making a strategic adjustment in what's causing MPUDs to be submitted. We are also looking at making some zoning changes that will enable certain development to happen without going to MPUD. For example, this morning I talked about the trip generation issue. That's not the only thing that's causing a lot of development to happen through the MPUD process. It's also lot sizes and developers seeking small lot sizes in particular. And the board met and discussed this issue extensively last winter and spring on how to deal with 40-foot wide lots, for example. And so the one amendment that we're working on still has to be vetted and taken through the whole process and whatnot, of course, but just as a preliminary discussion is how do you enable small lot single-family residential development to take place under Euclidean zoning standards. If you can address the trip generation and the lot size issue, you'll narrow the universe of applications that right now are compelled into the MPUD process. And there's a few other things that we can be doing as well with regard to zoning updates. In terms of processing updates, there is an operational memorandum, a draft operational memorandum that has been circulated to a number of county departments and review agencies that are external to the county that participate in these reviews, MPUD reviews, where we are informing them that if you're not on the short list, if you're not on the needed commentary list, you can continue to receive distributions from the Planning and Development Department, but you have 45 days to give us your feedback. If you exceed those 45 days and have not given us the feedback, we will proceed with the review and continue on. Currently, what's happening is there's an equal distribution to approximately 19 or 20 different entities. And then Planning and Development staff distributes and then waits for comments to come in from all 20 different entities who are themselves burdened by whatever core activities that they're working on. 45 days go by, and we haven't typically received comments from everybody, and so the wait continues and persists after that. So by telling everybody that you have 45 days and you're on the optional list and we're not going to wait for you anymore, we will have reduced the timeframes significantly on the distribution. So that is currently being worked on with the plan to issue such an operational memo probably the beginning of November. In addition to that, we are working on a new conditions of approval template with area stakeholders for MPUDs. We have done the internal work to identify what kind of conditions of approval need to be included on our templates. Now we're working with the land use attorneys, some of whom may be behind me still. Joel's still here at least. So we're working with area stakeholders to identify what's the best way that we can present the conditions of approval, both to applicants and eventually to the Board of County Commissioners, to staff, and then to the Board of County Commissioners, so that there is a smooth understanding of what's expected, and also, identify which conditions are negotiable and which are not negotiable. In addition to that, there went out last week an operational memo in the Planning and Development Department streamlining the process for requesting legal services from the County Attorney's Office. Right now, well, the previous practice, and this is we're now into the new practice, but the previous practice had a lot of pressure put on staff to identify what the dates are for when projects would get to public hearings. And staff would do the best to anticipate when they could get a project to the LPA or to the Planning Commission, ultimately to the BCC. But often those deadlines or those dates, that date setting would fall short of what the County Attorney's Office needed in terms of review time. And so this would also cause tremendous backlog and strain within the process itself to get projects moving through the process. And so we issued a operational memo that streamlined that process to make it easier for staff to pull together their package of their staff report and all the amendments that are or attachments that are associated with that. Then the County Attorney's Office could do a good legal review over a complete package that could then be processed through Civic Clerk and whatnot, and find its ways to the Planning Commission and to the Board of County Commissioners. These are some of the process changes that we've been working on that will help streamline and move projects a little bit more easily through the system. In addition to that, we're pivoting a number of positions within the Planning and Development Department to facilitate document processing activities, because these MPUDs, comprehensive plan amendments, all the different types of projects that you see on your normal agendas, it takes a lot of time to compile all of these documents into the PDFs and into the attachments that you see on those agendas. And that those have to be done by the project planner, or the project manager who's been working on this project for a number of weeks to months. And so we're pivoting project coordinator positions and other non-planner positions to facilitate some of that work, so that the planners can actually focus on the substantive nature of the planning work. In addition to that, we've also entered into an outsourcing contract with Patel Green and Associates to help us on the site development review side of things, because we're also experiencing not only a unprecedented workload with MPUDs, but also an unprecedented workload in site plan review applications, and every landscape plans, you name it, they're all high volume at this time. And so we're outsourcing a number of projects to our consultants to help us mitigate that process. We're identifying relief employment opportunities to bring in relief workers. There's 2 current candidates that we're working on that will be put as assets toward the MPUD overload. And we're currently preparing the Planning and Development Department to what I've been sort of talking about as a surge in work activity to deal with the unprecedented workload and accelerate all the review activities that we're asked to do. This acceleration is going to include additional full-time employees, which we've worked with Human Resources to establish additional positions for MPUD review, for site plan review, and for engineering review, in addition to the relief workers, and working now to assess what we can do to extend the hours of operation of the Planning and Development Department after hours and on weekends. That's in short. There's a lot of detail to be worked out still, but we're actively working toward mitigating that backlog.
So on the landscaping problems that we've been having, and I know you have, Sally, you've got a format right now, but I met with, I think Brad was in there, and maybe Matt and Katie, and we were tossing around ideas, and I think they have a meeting, you have a meeting coming up November 1st. And I'm talking about the commercial places that have let their landscaping die and go, and actually I've seen a few that have started putting it in the area, and it looks great. But we have come up with a solution that will take the responsibility, I think, out of the county staff and put the responsibility on the business who's let it fail. Really, they have the onus, I think, to show why they let it die, and if they don't have the plans, then they can follow our new plan. So we have something coming, and I don't know if you know about it yet, Sally, but I think November 1st you have a meeting with staff, and I hope this can go through. I talked to Dave Goldstein about it, and I know we may have to do some changes to the code, but the idea is to be smarter about how we enforce that and not put the responsibility on us, but on them who let it die. So, did you have any comments?
Yes, I just wanted to, going back to an example that you had brought up, and I feel that there's a resolution for every conflict. And speaking of backlog and different things like that, for example, if someone buys a pool from Walmart and puts it in their backyard, they're supposed to get a permit for that?
You're talking about an above-ground pool?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Sally Sherman, Assistant County Administrator, Development Services. If it's over a certain size, yes, ma'am, they are required to get a permit, because you also have to ensure that it's secured so no child can wander in and get into that pool. So there are parameters for above-ground pools.
And then do they come out and inspect?
If a permit is pulled, yes, ma'am.
And okay, so I'm not sure how many people actually know that they would have to pull a permit for a 3-foot pool, but in essence,
A 3-foot pool?
Yes, I heard that someone was going to get cited for having a 3-foot pool in their backyard. But if people don't know about the code, then they're not going to go and they're not going to pull a permit. And how many people go to Walmart and think that they need to pull a permit for a pool? And then in addition, if they have to, there's ways to streamline things. If you have to pull a permit with a pool, then maybe they have to have the permit attached to the box at the time of the sale, and they fill out the paperwork at the time of the sale. But there's just ways that they can definitely streamline some of these processes. And that's just an example on working towards streamlining other processes.
I have been making a series of notes based on your feedback, and thank you for that. And please know that we have a dedicated staff that's committed to process improvements and wanting to improve the processes. And I wished I would have had an opportunity to speak with Bob
Tony, oh, don't worry,
Corley.
we'll get you
I
there.
wish I would have had an opportunity to speak with him because I have been reaching out. First of all, I want to, first of all, again, acknowledge our staff because I don't want them to feel that they're not doing a good job because we have team members that work extremely hard. Just for inspections alone, they've been running anywhere between 1,300 to 2,000 inspections a day. We do have quick permits where you don't even have to do anything but go and apply for it online. We have streamlined a number of those where you just go in and do it.
You can take a photo with your camera, right? Yeah.
Submit everything,
Not
upload it,
commercial, not
pay
commercial.
for it, you're done.
That's residential.
Yes, and so we are looking at things of that nature. With regard to inspectors, we do training where we sit down, they have someone come in and provide training for our inspectors. Now, there is, in the Florida Building Code, a plethora of inspections. They list them out specifically, what is required to be inspected. And so I'd like to meet with him and see where we're going wrong. I think Commissioner Starkey had mentioned, some of the inspectors or team members, we had that were seasoned. They were used to doing things a certain way, and as time goes on, they understand that, they've changed. So we're committed to doing what we need to do to improve the process, and we recognize that there's a lot of challenges right now for commercial. When I came on board, I was told, get residential building permits process improved where people are not waiting 30 days for a home permit. We're like Mr. Cabral indicated, we got it down to 9 days under the level of service in which the Tampa Bay Builders Association had asked us. Theirs is 10, we're down to 9. With a change that the board voted in on the removal of the as-built requirements, once that is fully implemented, you're also going to continue to see additional deductions in timeframes. So I appreciate this. We have it. Again, I'd be happy to sit down and work with anybody who's interested in helping us improve the process. Like I say, right now, we're working on commercial. Commercial, when I came on board and talked to our building official who came into the processes that we have, we know that there's some inherent problems, and now anybody could go into my office right now and you'll see a stack of documents that's this thick, 24 by 24, where we're literally going through what is it that we're doing, because you can't improve if you don't understand what you have. So then working with that to improve the process, and then getting our commercial permits online. So again, you can get that concurrent review. Now, for commercial, you have to bring in 3 sets, and we have to carry them around from person to person. So we're trying to get beyond that, and it is going to take a couple of more months to get it done, but we're committed. But I'd love to sit down and meet with anyone who has any input that they can provide, or even provide additional training to help us.
All right. Madam Chair? So Sally, I appreciate you. When you first came here, I asked for a similar meeting with you. We had a similar meeting with a bunch of people. We talked about a whole bunch of different things. We never did a follow-up meeting. A lot of things haven't changed. We brought in Roy Mazur, we brought in Matt Campbell. Roy left out of frustration. He did get the as-built thing done, which was great, but it's tough to change the culture that's in there. But sometimes, because we have so many rules in place, like that fill ordinance was from people bringing fill in, it's still there, and for that one little problem we had, it's affecting everything on our coast. When Terry's talking about he's got so much to do that it's tough to get everything done, and I appreciate that. And talking to Brad, but one MPD, well, you can't move that MPD because you got to affect another one. It shouldn't be that way. I shouldn't have someone submitting an MPUD and it taking 5 months to get all the comments back. It shouldn't be a 3-week process from one to the other.
Wait a minute. I have an MPUD. I had a meeting with the guy that put in an MPUD who's waited 5 months, he hasn't got one comment yet.
Okay, so I had a small, listen to this one. I had an MPUD, or actually a building to be built, site plan, in an industrial park, right? In the industrial park, he makes his comments, he gets like 4 pages back or so. sits for months and months because he didn't do the zoning appropriate or something had to change with that, he has to submit again. The second time he submits, instead of getting 4 pages back of comments, he gets 7. 3 of them were all about the landscaping code. They made him go out and advertise to all the abutting landowners. Now, I'm not talking about the landowners outside the property. I'm talking about the people inside the park. For this guy to go build exactly what these people are out there as well. What we're doing, I think, the way Robert said it, is we have so many things, we're making these inspections happen that don't have to happen. We need to go back, not to discount everything you just kind of went through, Terry, all your improvements. I mean, I've got people right now that are doing all outside inspections, all outside engineering, et cetera, so they don't have to deal with us. So you've already got a whole bunch of people that already left us and are getting work done on the outside because they don't want to deal with us. We need to go simplify is what we got to go do. And by doing, and I think maybe getting that 3-panel committee together is like the first great thing we can do. I know, Sally, before you came here, Todd Bailey was in permitting as a temporary person. He learned, and one of the things we learned with him, and matter of fact, Sonia and Colleen and myself were out doing view specs, we found out our staff didn't have the right equipment to go do the inspections. Todd fixed that right away. We got that done. But I see the view specs from the things that we have actually gone down since, I'll say, a gentleman named Dan Kimbrell left. He was the #1 guy. But people would like to do it to make it easier for us, and it's better for us to do instead of driving here and there, to do everything by view specs. But as Mr. Koenig said, the roof inspections, to go tap on that, I'm not going to go on the roof. You know, people don't go up there. I mean, we got to trust the contractors. We got to put that out there so they're going to be liable, which they will be, by going forward, instead of us having to go do every minutia inspection, which we don't have to do. So I think we need to identify, and I think Robert Koenig would be a great person, maybe with a few other people. Let's go look at the things we need to inspect and get the ones we don't have to. When we're doing a site inspection, I mean, a site plan approval, and again, I think hopefully the MPDs, we can get rid of a lot of these, because that was something that was supposed to be a help. It's been a big hindrance, because, I mean, I'll go to the Nest Hockey thing, for that even being an MPD is crazy to me. Shouldn't have to go that way, but we've driven it. And I get some MPDs, we improved one of them, 800 units, and I don't even have a map of where the homes are gonna go in front of us with the agenda item we get. It's crazy. So simplifies where we gotta go. I would like to see that, and Mike, thank you very much. I mean, we talked about this, about getting it done, so you're having the meeting, and it wasn't to do anything more than, just like we did with you, I wanted a full voice for people just to be able to talk without worrying about who's in the room, what are they gonna say, et cetera. With all that stuff, Mike, you took great notes, and you just went through a bunch of them with us as well. That's the type of thing we need to go do. So I think with maybe Todd, with Mark Bellis, and Mark, thank you for being at the meeting, but watching as well. Let's go look at what we really need. These people work 80 hours a week, bringing an outside crew coming in. Let's go find out what we really need to go do, let it go, and if a contractor's not doing it right, he can be civilly held anyway. Someone could go after his license, not doing it right. But for that 1/4 of 1%, as Bob says, we shouldn't have all these rules in place.
Jack, so I've just been asked to ask a question. Wait, let me get it right. Has the Acela system helped or hurt the current planning process, in y'all's opinion?
Commissioner, the Acela system has improved our process to a degree. Again, please keep in mind, my edict was to get the permitting process corrected. If you recall, the Acela system has been up and running since 2016. When I came on board, I learned that the process and the implementation of Acela wasn't done completely. There was a lot of loss of resources with people leaving. I'm still learning that there were tools that we were supposed to have in place, i.e. the tool that would help me pull the data that is needed. That was never purchased. Right now, we've worked with the company to get that ERD data tool in place, things like that. It was never in place. We were working in 2 environments, Acela 1 and Acela 2. I think your team knew that, because if you wanted to check on something, it was dependent on what you were looking for, where you were supposed to look. I came to the board, and I think I was hired in end of 19. I think by January of 20, I think it was, or around that time, I came and asked the board for some additional funding to correct some things in Acela. You gave me those funds. We have now the entire Acela system for building permits for residential and all those quick permits that is operating perfectly. Then we're working on commercial. In the interim, we also understood that the system was not fully implemented for PDD, engineering, or utilities. Mr. Kapala, in his prior position, had came to me and said, Sally, we need to get the Acela system up and running for engineering, because right now, when they go and do an inspection, they have to literally send us an email and make a phone call, because it was never put in place. Those are the things that we're working on. The tool itself, I was equally as frustrated when I came on board, but it's not the system, it was how it was implemented. That is the problem, and those corrections are being made at this time. The team that was responsible for the implementation, I don't think there was, to my understanding, and maybe, if I'm wrong, someone can correct me, they did not have a clear understanding of who was in charge, who should they be doing things for, and who should they listen to. We've corrected all of that. It's been fixed. Now we have a system in place where we can automatically get things taken care of. So I'm saying with, asking for your patience, because we can fix this. We can completely go on and finalize getting things in place that should have been in place when it was implemented in 2016.
So I think this board, and I probably the new commissioners that are coming on, because I'm sure they heard what they've, I'm sure they've been spoken to as well, is that, the proof's going to be in the pudding of how fast how efficient we are getting them out the door.
Got a question.
So, yes, go ahead, Commissioner Oakley.
This is not to Sally, I was to Terry. Terry, have you already put in the 45 days for comments back on MPUD?
Those 45 days have always been the rule
Well,
of when comments should be coming in.
Then how do we go?
How
do we go 4 and 5 months and still have no comments? Or are we waiting on comments that you're not going to get?
There are outside agencies and departments that have told us, or that we have understood, must be commenting on them, and so there's a waiting period that takes place. What we're doing now is
can I ask a question
putting
real quick?
everybody on notice.
Terry, just because of that,
I don't understand what
this,
you just said.
this outer agency, whose rule is that you have to have the outer agencies go do it? Instead of having it just internal? Whose rule,
And what
who
agencies
made
are
that
you
rule?
speaking of?
It was, well, I don't have the full list in front of me at the moment. Do you have it? I can bring it up. So that was the current practice that was being.
Whose rule is that, is what I'm asking you?
I think that is an administrative rule that.
It's our rule then.
Was in
Who
planning
can
and
change
development.
our rule, Terry?
We're changing it now.
That's where we need to go.
And I'm trying to understand
We
what
make
you
the
just
rules.
said.
Let's go change the rules that are slowing everything down. I mean, I've asked you guys for 6 months, 8 months
That'll change.
to get rid of the fill ordinance. Haven't got anything back. I've tried to get a simple thing in there to make sure that someone wants to build a seawall, we stabilize it where it's 3 feet or go as high as 5 feet. Now, Regional Planning Council's actually brought something forward so we can get that adopted, but that's what we need to do. We can make the changes if it's our rules. We can't change Swift Mud rules, which, by the way, I think we should take a close look at what we're inspecting.
Right.
Because if Swift Mud's doing stormwater,
Yeah, we don't
why
know.
am I doing it?
Yeah, and I think we are
Makes no
looking at
sense.
that. We put that in
Let's
for the
not duplicate
Trinity
anything Swift
flooding
Mud's
and
doing
stuff,
either.
but we can.
Right off the bat.
Yeah, I think we understand. Simplification.
Yeah,
I get it.
that's where we're at.
Okay,
'Cause
but
if
the
it happens in
question
45 days-
about Acela was on current planning, not the building permit side. So is current planning using Acela?
We are.
And is that helpful for you?
I believe that the Acela system is helpful to help organize the workflow and to move things through the process. But I think what Sally mentioned is important, because the implementation of Acela initially, when I got here.
Terry, can I stop real quick? Because, listen, I was about to jump in and say, let's not beat up on the teams too hard, but we don't, don't go backwards anymore with Acela. We know it's garbage. Let's just be honest. I mean, I've heard it on numerous occasions from everybody out there, contractor-wise. Andy tries to find stuff on there. It's like,
My
it's
staff
not,
can't
I'm just
either.
being honest. I've heard too many complaints about it. I don't want to jump on you. I'm just telling you, don't give us, we don't want the history. I don't want to sit here for 20 minutes and let you talk about what happened with Acela and how we got to where we are today, okay? The question was, is it helpful? Just say yes or no. Don't give an explanation, just say yes or no. Because your explanation is way too long, okay? Just say yes or no, please. Just say yes or no. Is
Well,
it good
I
or
would say
bad
yes.
for you?
I
Okay,
would say
there you
yes.
go.
All right.
All right. Okay, so I just don't think we need to hear a 20-minute reason of why it's good and things like that. Just yes or no. The thing's terrible.
All right, well, this is a good discussion. I do have a few things on my list, but I think we needed to have this discussion.
Yeah, I
And,
think so.
and I'm glad we had it before you left, Commissioner Moore, so that you could, listen and participate.
I also think that Terry's been working it very hard to make some
Hey,
of the stuff more.
they were all working hard.
Moving fast.
Like I
And the
said, I
whole
just don't
team-
know we're working
His whole
smart.
team is on target.
Yeah, this is nothing to do
Yeah.
with personalities, people, effort,
No.
et cetera. What we see, and Mr. Koenig really just kind of laid out so good, like, I got to bring this forward. I've been waiting
Yeah.
2 weeks to make sure we had time for everybody to be here to see it and go through it. And it's not a lambasting. This is something where, let's go listen to an expert who's been doing it, who's watched this county from way back when, that's got a great historical knowledge how we used to do things and what's been added in. So there's great potential in our people. I just want to give you guys, put you in the right position to succeed. Because when you succeed, we succeed. And our citizens are going to be happier.
And
So
I am-
don't think it's anything personal. I love you guys. I think you're awesome. I really do.
Yeah.
I just want to help you get in a better position to
Agreed.
serve our people
If
better.
we can
That's all.
lessen the load on our staff by just doing things a little smarter, it's better for them too.
Yeah.
Better for all of us. So, thanks all. That's kind of where we were. But do we have to vote on your item still? Was that continued? Or did we pass that one?
Oh, there.
You know, the funding for,
That was.
No.
that was-
we did vote on
was
that?
approved.
Okay, good. All right, so,
Madam Chair? if I
yeah,
may.
sir.
And maybe the county attorney can help. I think there was an item on the addendum as a consent.
The
item.
addendum would have been
was
approved with
approved.
consent.
Okay, thank you.
All right, great.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know if you have my photos from my cleanup, but, so, I just didn't get to show these the other day, so I want to, so this is a house that's next door to one of the Farrells, and I want to thank Katie and Kelly Funk. We went out there and cleaned up that yard, and sadly, it looks like this again, and she is going to court. You can't tell, but that car, are these the only two photos that we have? So, yeah, here we are cleaning it all up. That car is filled with food, like, and it hasn't moved. That car there is filled with food and roaches, and is not operable, I think. So we're going to work on that, but
Is the person there disabled or?
she is mentally kind of
Okay, I
not
got you.
all
Okay,
with it.
Yeah.
And
Is she set up with Area Agency on Aging?
Oh,
for their-
I think our staff one has gone out there a couple of times, so I'm not sure, we're going to keep working on this, but she's got a court hearing next week. But the way we did it is that, because we didn't have a place to stage, you can scroll to the cleanups, we didn't have a place to stage, and so I would just want to show you guys this, because I think this worked really well, and I would ask utilities to see if our staff liked this option, is that everyone placed their stuff out in front of their house. And then the trucks came by and picked it up going down the street. And they actually had to go down each street a couple times because people who weren't paying attention, they came home and everyone kept putting more stuff out. And I thought that way worked out really well, and maybe we got more, because how are they gonna move that down to the collection site? How do you move that busted wave, jet ski or whatever? So I would suggest to you that I thought the way we did it was very efficient.
Did you get that Jaguar? Did it grip it good and pull it up?
I know, right?
Right in there?
Got a Jaguar out there. This is Buena Vista, and, Holly Lake Estates kind of in there.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Sometimes when this is set up, the benefits too, you can actually separate the metals out. You can separate the paints out,
Yeah.
some and tires out, et cetera. But in some of the cleanups I've done, we've had the grappling trucks, did phenomenal job. It's when you had like a hoarder that had all sorts of trash, you get it to the street, they'd come by and pick it up. So that type of thing, I think a combination of both still works
Oh, that's
good.
kind of a good idea, yeah. So the neighborhood was just so appreciative. And again, we got something like 34 tons, I think. I just wanted you to know on two things that FAC is working on. We aren't the only one that are struggling with the anonymous code complaints, that it went away. I have a constituent who called in on his neighbor. His neighbor found out that he was the one who called him in, and he came over and beat him up, and he got 18 stitches in his face. Yeah. So, and because we're reactive, not proactive, the neighborhoods are going downhill again. So, FAC, we're not, every county wants to try and change this. Apparently, this came about because we had a senator who had someone call on him, and he didn't like it, that he couldn't find out who did it, and so he changed it. So if we could all work with our legislators to say how important this is, to bring it back to anonymous, that would be great. The other thing that we're working on at FAC and at NACO, and now that we've taken over the jail, and you particularly might be interested in this since this was your industry, once someone is arrested and put in jail, they lose their health benefits. And I'm talking about Medicare, Medicaid, and if they have government benefits, and you know who gets to pick up that tab? We do. We do. And they can lose it for their family. And then when they get out of jail, and that doesn't mean they've been found guilty, they've just been charged. And when they get out, it takes quite a while apparently for them to get back on it. So this is a nationwide issue, but we need to really be working on this and helping NACO work on this.
Yeah, Madam Chair, that's a good point, because you're right, now that the county's taken over, and whether it was under the sheriff's budget or...
Either way, yeah,
it
it's our
doesn't
money
matter,
either
right?
way.
Still taxpayer dollars,
Yeah.
yeah. It's still taxpayer dollars. But you contract out whoever your provider is, and like you mentioned, when it comes to reimbursement, if there's no other reimbursement, and they don't take any type of insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance, whatever it may be, it's on our backs.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it make sense to actually be able to, have a provider in there that can or would, or they don't lose their benefits, to accept, whether it be, like you said, a private insurer or Medicare or Medicaid? I mean, the taxpayer is already paying for Medicaid.
Mm-hmm. So it doesn't make any sense at all.
Medicare. Yeah, I agree 1,000%. So
that's-
it sounds like something you could talk to your DC lobbyist about.
Yes. Oh, and I saw him last night.
Yeah.
But yeah, and this is something that is a nationwide issue, and I think we've really got to push it, Jack. Yeah.
And Madam Chair, a lot of our homeless population has big mental health issues or drug addiction issues, right? And they stopped doing it during COVID, bringing those guys to jail when they were like causing trouble, et cetera, just because they didn't have any room to put them in between COVID and all. I hope to go to the next opioid meeting. I was going to go to this one that was scheduled but rescheduled. We've got a lot of money that's going to be coming in. I think we can partner with the state and build a facility to take those that have mental health issues, drug addiction issues, and I mean, the money coming in covers the families as well, not just the addicts, but those that get affected, we can help them. And I think there's a great opportunity out there, whether we build it near the jail or away from the jail, but an officer, instead of having them take them right to the jail, and again, they lose the benefits, we can then treat them, get them treatment ahead of time, get them the help they need, maybe a hand up to get them going in a positive way, as opposed to the way we're just doing it now, where we're just fronting the load and paying all the bills.
It's pancreatic to the facility.
And I kind of mentioned that to Kathy and others. It's the same idea. So, but frankly, I think that they should be in some of the hot spots where we have a lot of opioid issues, which is Holiday, Hudson, Zephyr Hills.
Yep.
I'd keep them local.
Yep.
And don't take them to the jail. Take them to one of these triage kind of centers and get them started there. So I agree. We have a lot of money coming, and That's a suggestion we have.
And Madam Chair.
Yep.
Speaking of that, I'm going to bring up the Marchman Act as well, along with the Baker Act, because a lot of these times, even if a law enforcement officer is Marchman acting someone, they'll drop them off at the hospital, and instead of following through and then bringing them to the treatment facility to be Marchman acted, the hospital is now releasing them. So I think it's really important that we have follow-through, because otherwise it's just a revolving door. And then also pertaining to the jail, I feel that once they get incarcerated, anyone with a mental health or under 18, over 65, pregnant, disabled, or with a kid, and if they're getting arrested, they most likely have, if 85% of people are being arrested due to drugs, then the majority of them have mental health concerns. They should be qualifying for disability, and they should be getting Medicaid, qualifying for Medicaid benefits while they are incarcerated, and up to probably 30 to 60 or 90 days for upon being released. So they can follow up. Because also, if we can put people, or if there are inmates that are incarcerated and they're on medications, there's no follow-through once they're released. I know they tried to work on a system, but if they're on medication every day and they're stabilized in the jail system, once they're released, they no longer have access to their medication, and then they're relapsing and then turning to other drugs and self-medicating. So I think it's really important that once they're incarcerated, they're getting the medications that they need, they get a prescription for that medication upon release, and then they can follow up with a doctor. But if they don't have Medicaid, then they can't follow up with the doctor. And then there's, again, back to no follow-through.
Okay. Was there something else I was going to say on that? All right, one more thing, and this has to do with surplus housing and affordability, or surplus lots. We're working on a plan here so that when we surplus lots, that before we put them out on the market for sale, we make sure they are given to nonprofits or for-profits, I don't care, as long as they're building affordable housing. And apparently, we thought we were doing that, but we weren't. So they are working on this list, and I don't know if that's something you have to bring to us. I know we talked about you being able to do some by administrative right.
Yeah, so I think we've tightened that up a little bit. I think it's kind of happened, but maybe not as streamlined or as strictly as we would like it to be, but yeah, we understand that.
Okay, yeah.
And actually, before we adjourn, I see our media relations team is here. I know they would really appreciate a photo op with the board with their tellies, if that's okay.
All right.
I had something on driveways, but I'm going to bring it up next meeting. So, all right. So one more photo, and I guess we're done. Thank you. Yes, we are adjourned. So one photo. Oh, all these people. I couldn't tell with my eyesight who those were.
You can hold it with him.
I thought maybe those weren't.
No. I thought we were, yeah, there's a bunch of people, Commish.
Directly into our lakes and rivers, creating an unhealthy environment for fish, waterfowl. Storm drains are meant for clean rainwater. Most other discharges are illegal. If you suspect an illicit discharge, please contact Pasco County Department of Public Works at 727-834-3611.
This is Brian Corley, Supervisor of Elections, reminding Pasco County voters that your vote is your voice. How and when is your choice? Voting has never been easier for Pasco County residents with the convenience of voting by mail from home or voting early at one of the 12 early voting sites located throughout the county. The early voting period begins Wednesday, October 26th and runs through Saturday, November 5th with extended hours available. To avoid waiting in line, request a vote by mail ballot today by going to pascovotes.gov or calling 800-851-8754 for more information. My team and I stand ready to assist.
Welcome to Pasco County, the fastest growing county in the Tampa Bay area. The Pasco Board of County Commissioners is a high-performing organization with 2,700 employees representing 57 lines of business, serving nearly 600,000 people over 740 square miles, and we're always looking for talented people to join our team. This is your opportunity to help make your community a better place to live, work, and play.